This is the 911 Calls Podcast with the operator. Go.
Welcome to episode 200 of the 911 Calls Podcast.
I have
a
episode
guest.
200.
You're on episode 200.
Yay.
I have a guest host for this episode. I'm bringing back the old vibes of having somebody on the show. I'm going to introduce you. I have with me Brian Wade, and he's given me permission to give him this title. He is a two-time Oscar-winning contributor. Right? Because in your field,
there it is.
I wanted to make sure I got it right, but two-time Oscar winning for prosthetics and makeup effects. Would that be a sculptor, right? That sculptor to the scars, makeup effects.
Yeah, sculptor to the stars.
Yeah, you should.
Maps the stars' homes.
Brian is like I'll share my origin story of how I know you, and you can share yours if you'd like. Brian showed up a long time ago in my inbox on Instagram, and you'd send me messages, you'd send me clips of things you'd find on Instagram. You'd comment with praise of things, and you'd be one of very few that commented and gave me praise, and I'd love to. And one thing I noticed right away was your
these weren't DMs; they were regular comments.
Yeah,
right?
Comments and okay, so on Instagram, if anybody wants to check out Brian, he goes under the name Millionaire Clayboy, which I think is the most ingenious name. It's so good.
And I think it's a polarizing name.
It's so good, and I never forgot it once I saw it once, right? And I thought, I love that name, and I looked you up, and you do. Your life that you lead is one that I wanted to lead, and I told you before.
I was very surprised to learn. I already feel like we're brethren in that regard. You know.
Well, I'm honored if you consider me brethren because you've been doing this for a long time. And before the show started, I said I'm sure that Kent would be very jealous that you're on because he lives in a world of, before he podcasted practical effects and the sculpting and all of that. And he's really into horror and
I was surprised and delighted to hear that as well. Yeah.
So a little bit about me, just to kind of connect the dots with why I'm such a fan of Brian, is before I had
crazy.
Well, I might say the same about you if you listen to my show. So,
all right, fair enough.
Yeah, but before
crazy, yeah,
exactly. We two peas in a pod. Before I had any businesses or anything like that, I went to the Art Institute for computer animation, and I had dreams of being an animator or being in the industry, and you get in that industry really quick. Or if anyone that's ever watched a movie, a 3D animated movie, or any movie with any kind of special effects, you watch the credits, and it dawned on me, I've got to decide what I want to be in that industry, because there's no title that's just the animator for this show.
Exactly. Your name right there.
Just a big, yeah.
Good job,
you're one
buddy.
of, yeah. I mean, if a movie credit, if the people that work on a movie was a watch, the cogs sometimes would be anatomical level size. There's so many people. Yes. And I realized that really quick, and I was like, okay, so maybe I want to be a technical director, or I'll work in inverse kinematics, or texture or lighting, and the world was my oyster. and then oddly enough, life happened. I started a little business. It started to make a little money, and I thought, oh, I've either got to focus on this now, or or continue with the art
The
institute. And
dream. Yeah.
yeah, I decided to give up on that dream and start the little business that I'd started, and and fast forward to now, I've been a huge fan of your work.
That is
Watching
so,
the
it's so weird for me to hear. But
well,
I'm grateful. Yeah, thank you.
well, I'm a huge fangirl, I guess is the best way to put it. I've been watching you for a long time, and that you followed my show and everything. I was like, oh my
Mm,
goodness, and
yeah, go
and
figure.
I thought, okay, for the 200th episode, I want to have Brian on because you are our only two-time Oscar winner.
Okay,
We've got a ton of one-time Oscar winners that
you
listen
got
naturally,
you,
obviously, but
you got a line leading out the door.
yeah. And they were all like, "Can I be on the 200th episode?" I'm like, "No, Leo, you can't." I'm
Yes,
constantly shooting down all the one-timers, and I was like, "I got a two-time Oscar winner coming on the show." And
screw
they were like,
those
"Okay."
guys. Yeah.
Exactly.
No,
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
So just to kind of bring some clarity.
And to clarify, I don't own any of those two Oscars. I'm just somebody who contributed. So,
And I think
but
that's a really
still,
important.
it still like makes the little kid in me happy, you know.
Yeah.
And the really only measure of happiness I suppose I got out of any of that uh, was making my mom proud at the end of the day. That's really all that mattered, you know.
Well, and we're gonna dig into that because there was a special way in which that happened, and I love that. Um, I think a good, like, a blanket statement, because I've been talking to Brian for a little bit, and as
Sure.
many maybe in his industry, where the collective contributions of a bunch of artisans end up becoming something that we all get to appreciate on the screen. Many of you are very humble, maybe overly humble, because somebody might come and say, "Well, let me just kick it off by I'm going to read you some of the work, uh, you dear listener, that Brian has been on, that
Boy,
he has been on."
all right.
Um, for some of the most modern, everybody knows who the Demogorgon is from Stranger Things, and what's the story there, Brian? How did that manifest itself?
So, generally speaking, people in my realm kind of fit into one of two categories. This is a very broad overview, and I'll try to keep it simple. You're either under a company roof as their in-house person, or you're a freelance artist. And I've done a little bit of both, but while I was freelancing, I got a call from one of the studios, a very well known and established studio called Spectral Motion. And
Hmm.
they asked me if I would head up the team to sculpt the creature suit for this show that I hadn't heard of before. And, you know, day one, you're getting all the information and you're getting yourself set up and reference materials are gathered and all that jazz. And then they were very kind and and uh, I had an incredibly, very fortunate, very incredibly talented uh, crew working with me. So I share the success of that in some measure, obviously, to them. Uh, and there would be Miles and Wayne and uh, oh, can I? So it's like forgetting your mother's name
Right.
when it comes to me. Anyways, it's long story short, uh, Andy is the third buddy of mine. So you're in this little bubble with two or three other colleagues and being creative all day, and
Hmm.
everybody is adding something hopefully special to it. Sometimes you have to steer it a certain direction. But I'll try to summarize. But at the end of the day, we created the live or Spectral Motion created the suit for that character, and they did a mechanical head and all that jazz. And I think why you even bothered to mention it is because it kind of became part of the uh I don't know if zeitgeist is the right word, but kind of
Yeah,
the
I'd say so.
fabric of a certain nerd universe. And you can never predict. You just can never predict, what's going to get traction. And then that made the little kid in me happy. Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
I think one of the things that I think is really neat, and we were talking about this, I'm probably going to say that a lot because you and I talked quite a bit before we started recording, is that uh, and I'm going to make, I will try to align myself with you from time to time. It's not an apples to apples because you're in a different
Oh,
league, man.
just spit it out. We'll sort it out later.
Yeah. But we're in similar creative endeavors where, like we're recording right now, and then I will, at 2 a.m. in my underwear, I'll edit this show, and then, it'll get scheduled for release, and I'll forget that, it won't be front and center for me anymore because I'll be on episode 201, and,
Right.
and I won't know how well this did until the audience hears it and they absorb it, and yours is very much similar. Like you could be
Yeah,
3 4 5 projects down the pipe when Stranger Things season 1 launches. And
absolutely. It's in the rearview mirror. Yeah, absolutely.
how does that work? Like in particular with that one, I've got some others that I'm actually more excited to mention, but with that, like, how do you find out that your something you created has become literally part of the cultural underpinnings of society? Like, when did you find out, hey, this is really, really moving?
I think it sort of comes at you uh kind of left and right without you really when you're not doing anything and minding your own business, and it's just somehow hitting you
Yeah,
uh with whatever internet interactions you're doing, or whatever thing you browse through to get some general information. It just kind of starts to happen. It's like how I learned the name of certain basketball players. And I'm not a sports fan, but you learn who Michael Jordan is, and you learn
yeah,
who, because you're inundated with it. So it kind of,
right.
not comparing it to Michael Jordan, of course, but it just comes at you, and you sort of like, oh, there's a lot of chatter, and people do articles and all that jazz. So
Well, you're very humble,
that's
but in the last several years, you were part of a very, like, again, I want to make an overarching statement here because I think in your industry it's very common because you're part of teams. When somebody tries to apply praise to you directly, the reflex is to say, well, I was part of it, I was a contributor. But if we reel back to, like, when Bill Gates made Microsoft, that we know like 2 or 3 names that headline, that they could say, no, yeah, I was there when Microsoft was created. But there was
yes,
probably 40 people that were OGs as well, and they can very much confidently say, no, I was there, and I was an active part of the creation of that thing. And so, as an
40 lucky,
overarching,
very lucky people.
yeah, and I think you're very humble about the fact that you're part of some of these amazing things, but um that you are part of the social fabric now. Like, and I love bringing that into the sunlight, and so hopefully
All right.
you'll bear with me while I do
I'll
that a
let
little
you do
bit.
your thing.
Okay. Okay. And for a moment, I know that there
I
is a
won't
team to
crush your
share.
happiness.
Yeah, thank you. Because you're bringing some closure to me, because when I gave up, I get maybe a little emotional thinking about this now, but when I gave up on my career as an animator, I realized I was giving up as a cog in something very meaningful. And so when I see you and I see the work that you've produced and the amazing, the amazing creatures and creations and the things you've contributed, I'm like, that's what that job is all about. Like you said, you weren't on stage when that Oscar was given out, but that sitting there with maybe a beer in your hand, we're like, yep, okay, that was good.
Yeah.
Mark
Yeah,
that one on the calendar.
it doesn't suck when something does well. Yeah.
Yeah.
It it
Okay, so
it, it brings joy to you. Yeah, definitely.
ta- talking about some other things that, in my opinion, have like they're part of my heart. They're part of like uh my upbringing and everything. So you are an OG of OGs when it comes to this industry. You were 19 and you were part of the special makeup effects team for The Thing.
That chestnut. Yeah,
I'm sure.
I feel very fortunate. I'm very grateful uh to have had that experience. I would do it again in a heartbeat, to be honest. I don't
Man.
know if I could do 3 days in a row anymore, but uh it clearly gave my career some traction that I'm forever grateful for. And and you know, there's a finite amount I can take credit for, but I'm definitely grateful for working on that show. It changed the way I think about makeup effects, the way
Yeah.
I approached doing a gag in a film. And yeah, I mean it somehow has gotten more of an audience over time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's maintained course. It's found its place. It's found a corner in a room full of not many corners.
yeah.
And
And
it's there.
if you're a big fan, sorry, uh they just released like this ultimate DVD, The Thing, like it's a whole documentary behind the scenes, like brand new.
Really.
So yeah, it's just as we speak, it's available. So
Really. Do you
that
know
for
I do you know like could we see a 19-year-old Brian Wade on that DVD somewhere, do you think?
I think the odds of seeing any live action rec it depends on the stills they have available,
Yeah,
but there was, to my knowledge, no video filmed of
of the
any of the
making and
there was a very strict, like, no cameras policy. Like,
yeah.
"Oh, don't worry, we'll get you pictures for your portfolio at the end of the show." That never happened, but it is what it
I've
is.
got I've got to imagine though, like we, The Thing made in '82, not exactly a ragtag crew. It was a production, but some of these films, they're made on bubble gum and string kind of budgets, and so they're not thinking, oh, we should document the making of, and so a lot of these things probably happen in, hey Brian, can you go down to this shed and help finish out the maquette for this? There's a guy, you'll find him, he looks like a hobbit, you'll go in there, you'll help him for 6 hours. You know what I mean? Like it's not all just
Right,
behind, not everybody's just right behind,
right,
Robert, the director.
right, right. Yeah, fortunately, we weren't in a shed.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
it was a really, giant facility, and yeah, it was great. I mean, I think we were on it close to 14 months just doing
Wow.
the makeup effects, which is unheard of nowadays. And and it was 7 days a week, and it was, morning, noon, and night. And we had we had a crew that they lovingly referred to as like the hardcore crew, and they were just there. We were just there.
There all the time.
There was nowhere else I would rather have been, to be
Yeah.
honest. You know,
Um, I'm gonna list some of these off, and I've got so many questions. This is probably one of the first episodes in a long time that I've done where I'm like, I'm going to make an uncut because I've got way too many questions for, our normal audience, which will come and they'll be like, okay, you and Brian
Is
talked a lot, but where's the
do you,
911 call?
do you have a normal audience?
No, 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 I don't. Good point. Very good point. Um, okay, so without any no particular order, you worked on these in either a couple different roles, like special makeup effects, prosthetics, um, prosthetic effects. Those sculptor. Salem's Lot,
Right.
Maxine, which was released not too long ago, which got a lot of popularity. Blade, which is part of my
The
upbringing.
first one, yeah,
Aquaman. The Fall of the House of Usher, which was a great TV series.
that was good.
Saw X, which I think was one of the best ones. So if you're going to be on one of the
I
Saw,
I'll have to rewatch it. I think I watched it though.
yeah.
Yeah,
Ferrari, which that was a great movie. Insidious, one of the Insidious movies of the Red Door. Um, Obi-Wan Kenobi, the TV series, Terminator,
the first one.
and
Yeah,
the first one, like the original, that just blows
yeah,
my mind.
yeah. For all its like your use your expression for all its love it even with all its warts. Yeah,
Oh
that's such a good
gosh.
expression.
I'm just blown away. So when, in particular, like when you're working on something like the Terminator, what is your role there with that? Where do you find yourself every day? Is it prosthetics? Is it, um,
We were very, I was working for the great Stan Winston back in his
man,
early days,
holy
and
cow. I just got goosebumps.
he was such a great boss and such a good person. But I mean, we were tasked with everything, the puppets, the Terminator, the makeup effects. So it was anything in that realm. So, I mean, you wear a lot of hats and, I enjoyed my brief time on that show. But
That's
it
amazing.
it was like my third Cameron film. Unfortunately or whatever, his career skyrocketed after that.
Yeah.
So I didn't get to ride that wave with him to success and to the bank. But yeah, he's a sharp cookie. I got to work with him back in the Roger Corman days on Galaxy of Terror, and then again on his first directorial debut for Piranha 2. This is a rich nerd trivia.
I'm
I don't
nerding out. I'm
I don't
eating up every
expect
word you're saying.
any of the listeners to be able to follow this, but God bless you if you're still here. you
Well,
know,
if they're still here, they know that maybe between either you're feeding them everything that they're loving, or they like me enough to see me
there you
happy,
go.
and
All right.
so it's either way. I wanted to ask you. So there are a couple things that are coming out. Um, One in particular that's coming out actually that you worked on. Um, the movie The Bride with
Yeah,
Christian Bale.
that's a brand new release. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and
wish it all the best. I have no idea how things are going with that. But
you'll find out in 6 months whether or not you created another piece of the social fabric or not, right?
yeah, I'm sure within 48 hours it'll be much
Yeah,
shorter.
48. Yeah, yeah, right. Um, so in particular, was your work with the female actor on that? Was it with Jesse Binkley or was it with or
Jesse
Buckley? I'm sorry,
Buckley. It
Buckley.
was with Christian Bale. I
Oh,
got
okay.
the shout out from uh uh another makeup colleague that I had worked with on a movie called Vice. So we had worked together and my name came
Oh,
up and he gave me a
yes.
holler. So I'm forever grateful to him for that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, if anybody, I've already said the name that you go on on Instagram, but if you look at Millionaire Clayboy and you just start doom scrolling, you'll thank me. You'll thank me 10 times over because you'll see characters you've seen on shows and films you've watched. And I'm blown away that I'm talking to you. It's very,
Well,
very surreal for me.
it's the
Um,
same. It's exactly the same for me.
wow, that
Yeah,
doesn't
I
make
mean, I even kind of like, it's hard for me to process, but I even went when you mentioned the Instagram name. I told you I have like a love-hate thing with that. The story behind that was, yeah, I'm a long time Batman fan slash
yeah,
nerd. And, Bruce Wayne was always referred to as millionaire playboy Bruce Wayne. That
right.
was like all in one breath. So back in the Skype days, if you remember those,
Oh yeah.
you had to have a screen name. So mine was a play on that. So instead of millionaire playboy, I did millionaire playboy, and a couple people liked it. And then when it came time to you have to make up a name for your Instagram, I thought, oh, two people I know like that. So I just threw that in there.
Well, over
I've re-
50,000 people like it now, so it's
I've
caught on.
regretted it ever since, but whatever.
Oh my goodness. It's so good. So I wanted to ask you, this is a bit interesting. On Instagram, I noticed that you posted, and it made me laugh a little bit because I wonder how that works in your industry. So you
What's that?
posted that that you're open for commissions or for work.
Yeah.
Um
It doesn't hurt to
and
put it out there.
well, and I
you
was
know.
going to ask you, like in your industry, do you guys have, I don't know, do you have agents, or is it all like just word of mouth? Like, hey,
I
Brian's
it,
available, we should get him.
it's at a certain level, it's all word of mouth. The inevitably, unless somebody already has somebody very specific in mind, and their number is in their phone, and they call them up themselves. Somewhere in the process, someone will say like, "Oh, we got to start crewing up and they put together in their head or on a piece of paper or whatever, like a wish list, like,
Yeah.
and you start with the people that spring to mind first, and they just start calling. Hey, are you available? It's the same. It's like you said, word of mouth.
Yeah.
And maybe even certain artists you might think of for a certain project in particular, like, that might lend itself really well to so and so's style.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So, uh, and then it's luck of the draw who's available. And I always jokingly say I only work when the first choices are out of work.
Yeah, yeah, right. Well, I can put that to rest right now because I know that not only in with regard to you in particular, not only is it word of mouth amongst your the network and your industry, but when it came to Vice in particular, the work you had done on Vice was noticed by Christian Bale, and he said, who made this?
That was a
And
very, yeah, that was like, that never happened. Uh, 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 you want me to chime in?
yeah,
uh,
tell me how that
the,
went.
the colleague that brought me on board and who was uh, co-heading up that show was a gentleman by the name of Chris Gallagher, quite possibly one of the nicest human beings on the planet. And I had done some work for him. He gave me a call. The next thing you know, oh, and uh, another longtime colleague, uh, Greg Canham, who was I believe it was his show, and he delegated a lot of it to Chris Gallagher. Sorry, and that's kind of how it went. I mean, that particular thing, I was already knee deep in the show when Chris kind of was on the phone with me. We were talking about something, and he mentioned that, and the little kid in me is like, "Oh, you know, Christian Bale asked who sculpted," like I'm the only person on the planet who could give a 2 cents about that. But it was nice that Chris mentioned it because it made me happy for you know the rest of the day. but they were kind enough to invite me down to the set, and it was very brief, but they walked me right onto the set, and it was like the Oval Office, and Christian Bale was in full wardrobe and prosthetics, looking like uh like oh my God, I can't even remember the name of the guy he's
Oh,
supposed to be.
he was the vice president, wasn't he?
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes.
I'm a terrible human being. I can't
I
remember his name. And
We're
anyways,
both nervous, that's why.
no, it's all
It
right.
was the vice president that shot the guy on accident, I
Yes,
think, right?
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. So, but he was in full makeup and everything. He looked fantastic, I have to add. And and he introduced me and said, "This is Brian So he was very kind, and so I'm forever a fan of Christian Bale as a result. But yeah, you know,
Sounds like
that
he's
was
a
kind
fan
of
of
a
you. That's awesome.
that was a I don't know about that, but he was
One of
very
the things
nice.
you and I talked about, and so we'll segue into who really matters when it comes
Oh,
to who we're pleasing.
mm,
I think both of us can agree that if we can make our moms proud, that's the brass ring with
that
what we
is,
do. And
yeah.
I will admit, I think I'm on a bit of a journey there where I'm constantly saying things on a mic where my mom's like, "Oh, Sam, oh,"
Are you? Oh, yeah, that's got to be a tough one, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, I've got a lot of hours out there of me talking about stuff that she can listen to and be like, "That's not how it went. You lied
Oh, oh.
or you stretched the truth."
Did
But
she? Does she ever get uncomfortable with the subject matter?
I'll tell you what, my mom and Kent get along very well. Kent has a very unique uh, bit of DNA where it's like blood in the water when he knows that someone is easily made uncomfortable. And we were
Or
all in Colorado together, and he was constantly riling my mom up. It was so funny to watch how uncomfortable he could make her.
he was
And
entertaining himself with that, right?
he was leaning in on it. So, yeah, there's a lot about what I do. She's proud of me. I think she's proud of
Oh,
me,
okay.
but she also she wishes I would maybe branch out a little more and do something that might read better on a headstone. But to that point, we were talking, and sometimes it's nice, you're I'm sure you're just a lexicon of all the stories and experiences you've had that, and if this show is any evidence of it, they've got to be drawn out of a humble guy like you, and that's one thing. But the brass ring sometimes is something tangible when it comes to your creation and everything. And you brought up something that I think a lot of people can relate with, because the only way we get a way to interact with something that you might have created is in toy form. And so there, some of these things that you've made, the Demogorgon in particular, it was turned into a toy. And so
Few
that's
toys
yeah, and
and
that's got to be,
A Lego set.
yes, a
I
Lego
was like,
set of it.
oh my gosh, wow,
Yeah.
yeah,
But but it's not all horror when it comes to toys with your creations, and one of them sounds like it made your mom maybe the most proud, would you
yeah,
say?
yeah. I know where you're going with this. You're hearkening back to Stuart Little. That was
Stuart
that.
Little.
Yeah, I get that. I get like the little kid in me is happy about that. In that it was kind of my way to say to my mom, look, not everything I do has to be scary,
Yeah.
and that it was
Yeah.
somehow successful and there were toys. Yeah.
Man,
I
I
actually just talked to this is nerdy trivia. Just talked to yesterday a guy who has the actual screen used car, Stuart Little car, which is I don't know how
really.
big. He has the one from the film, and I had sent him some pictures of some of the Stuart Littles I have laying around, and so he made me an offer, and so I'm gonna give him a good home. I mean, if the guy's a fan, that's a good
Yeah.
home. Why not?
Oh, man. And I don't know about you. and when it comes to memorabilia, but some of the things from my childhood, we find out maybe after the fact, and maybe even somebody like yourself when you're working on it, the question is, where did that end up? Where's the suit that we made for X or Y or Z? And one of the really tragic ones for me,
Where's the Lost in Space robot?
yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
For one of the things for me, and some of these things get worked over, right? But during the Rankin Bass like stop motion animation days,
I grew up
all
on
of
those.
those, all the characters, and they get manipulated so much, some of them just fall apart. But it's interesting to find out the etymology, like where did it go? How many
Did you ever
Jaws
find
robots
out?
were there? I actually, yeah, there's a handful of like, for example, the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeers that survived, but they're ragged condition,
They're
but
the
I
real
always love
ones.
that yeah.
Yeah, I grew
Or
up on that stuff. That'll always have a soft spot in my heart. There's some guy now, TikTok is part of like the daily conversation. I
yeah.
believe on TikTok who does a whole thing where he animates himself to the soundtrack of dialogue of some of these
Oh,
old
I
Rankin
love
Bass,
him.
right?
Yes,
It's
it's
eerie
so good.
how he does it. He's got it down.
I
He's
don't know
the
how he
man.
does
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Me neither.
I've wanted
He's
to reach
really
out to him
good.
because I'm
He's
I'm a
really good.
I'm we you and I have talked, when it comes to post production and editing, you can watch something oftentimes and you're like, I know how they did that. I
Dude,
can't figure it out because
I,
somehow he's got the stop start
the
of
body
the
movements down
yeah.
somehow. Yeah, he's
I
nailed it.
don't I don't know
Yeah, I
how I don't know
wish I
how he
knew
did
his
it.
name. Yeah, I could give him a shout out, but yeah, we're talking about the same guy.
Oh, he's so good, and you're right.
Yeah.
He lip
D-
syncs all
uh,
the parts.
uh, there's one guy that does the Lego, I think, and then
Oh,
there's the one guy who does all the Rankin Bass. Like that's his shtick. That's it,
yeah,
and he's great. Yeah.
man. There's some. We were talking about this too. Just that Instagram is, or any of the social medias, it is the front stage for the greatest artists of our generation, and they're all there, and they're all there for the taking. And my perspective is like watching you, like you'll post something to yesterday, and I'll be like, oh my gosh. And then, you'll post another picture tomorrow. And knowing what it takes, just a little glimpse because of my experience just in a bit of the industry, knowing what it takes to create the clay sculpture that you're creating, or the model in ZBrush that you're designing, um, knowing how long that takes. Social media is such a glimpse, and we've got this presumption that Brian Wade sits down and in the course of a 3.5 minute video, he creates a complete work of art.
Wouldn't that be
It's
nice? Yeah,
oh,
that would be
but
the ticket right there.
yeah, it's a bit of a deception because some of these things are labors of love over a long period of time.
The most of the ones that people enjoy usually were labors of love.
Yeah,
Uh, and others were labors of love and nobody, nothing but crickets. Like I
yeah,
had mentioned before, like I learned like every artist needs a little bit of like, hey, good job, buddy.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
you're the little brother, like your big brother telling you, good job, good try.
Good
You
job,
know,
you did it.
yeah, you need something of that somehow. But I learned that if you're doing something and you're hoping this is the one that everybody's gonna like, that's a tough lesson to learn the hard way because I put effort into stuff and just crickets,
Yeah,
like, oh well, yeah, don't let that be your motivation, definitely.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree with that. There are a lot of mornings. We'll record this episode. I'll edit it, and then I'll put it out, and I won't know for a little bit whether or not it lives or dies as far as the audience approval goes. And more often than not, I'm like, oh, I probably won't get up tomorrow morning, just
Oh,
because you put
yeah.
your heart out there, right?
Yeah,
And
I hear you. I do hear you. Yeah,
yeah,
but you have to temper it, don't you? You kind of have to
you
be
do.
like, you can't be angry at, you know. Also, conversely, and I don't know if this is me overthinking again, but if you're scrolling through something and maybe you see something, you're like, oh, that's not so great. But, everybody's going, good job. So
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
who is,
It's all.
who is it? Yeah, who is like, do, do I even, I don't know. You know what I'm
I
trying to say without
I
actually
know
saying it?
exactly what you're saying, because there's two industries, there's two passions that I have where the sunlight doesn't land on the right people all the time. And one of them is in the art world, and I hate to say this, but there are some amazing female artists out there that don't get the attention because the majority of, well, a large portion of social media shows up for boobs. And so if you're a great artist
That's
and
one way to put
plus
it. Yeah.
plus
And you have
boobs,
boobs.
yeah,
Oh,
you've
no.
got, and I hate to say that, but if
Oh, no.
it's actually become kind of a meme because there are some amazing female artists where they've commented and they've said, I created this, and it'll show, and it like has 200 likes, and then flip to some double D girl who's painted something looks like Helen Keller did it, and she's got 300,000 likes, and you're like, ah, man, but it's true that
It's a
guitar.
cruel world. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is. There are a lot of industries where social media maybe shouldn't be the barometer whether or not we're popular or not, or
Yeah.
we're contributing to society in the right way, right?
Right. Or
Yeah.
yeah, or your work is of note, you know.
Yes. Well, I am a giant fan. Oh, I had one more thing I wanted to ask you. So, kind of an evolution of sorts in your work and in your industry is going from traditional, like actual sculpting and everything,
Physical
to
sculpting.
digital.
Correct.
When it comes to that, are you finding that are there new requests where it's like, well, don't worry about doing the physical version. We just do it in digital. We can 3D print it or whatever. Are you finding
Y-
any of that now? Is
That's
that
very
happening?
that's very much a normal part of the workflow. It's very much a conversation that happens all the time. It's,
Yeah.
people have been for some time now moved towards that. There were a lot of collectible markets that went from traditional sculpting to ZBrush, and that was kind of the barometer of where things were heading. Now, even some tertiary things that are related to makeup effects have almost given it entirely over to some digital, like, instead of doing a physical live cast, if the actor can't travel from wherever they are, sometimes they'll send somebody right to him and they'll do a scan of him in his kitchen or wherever,
Right.
And
Yeah.
and
Just do a
and,
little
and it's
3D scan.
right. And it's probably a much more pleasant experience. They don't have to get out of their pajamas if they don't want to.
Yeah.
And they don't have to have goop all over their face. And they don't have to like feel claustrophobic or if they have that issue. So yeah,
I could
some
see
things are
that.
just very much part of the workflow. Absolutely.
Maybe some of it's, oh, I mean, you're right. And I didn't even think of that. At first I was like, oh, well, if an actor's not willing to be live casted, uh, you know, and I'm critical, but now I'm thinking about it. I'm like, it would be hard to be an actor laying down, knowing that your entire head is going to be covered in, some kind
In
of,
anything.
uh, anything, and the
Right.
only exposure you've got to the outside world are nostril tubes so you don't
A-
die
And
inside of
and
it.
and maybe a little bit of peripheral light and shadow through your
Yeah,
eyelids.
just a
Have you
little.
ever have you ever had one done?
I've never done a light.
Ha-
So
you haven't scanned your own face?
I've done a 3D scan of my
Oh,
face. It
okay.
was one
All
of the
right,
first
cool.
things that I did because I set up my 3D scanner in front of me on a tripod, and then as some people might know, you've got
Then
to
you took her
rotate.
clothes off,
Yeah, yeah. I took all my clothes off. I invited my most favorite friends.
locked the door.
Yeah. But I sat on a stool, a rotating stool, and then I just rotated myself, to get the scan. And I realized at that point I have a face for podcasting, and I should go on a
Yeah.
diet.
Oh, yeah. Dude,
But
if I could do a split screen now between what I mean, so much. I don't doubt you for a second in your interpretation of how you perceived yourself, because
yeah,
I saw mine and I was like, "Who's that?" You know.
who's that
So
guy?
yeah, yeah,
You're like, let me jump into ZBrush and just punch this up a little bit. Let
yeah.
me just improve it.
There's a cottage industry right there. You know,
Yeah. Wow, yeah, you could start working for like plastic surgeons where they send you the digital life cast. You're like, okay,
and you know what? I'm sure for uh corrective prosthetics that
yeah,
there are probably people already putting that into the pipeline. And also, to be quite frank, in our industry, in special makeup effects, the digital stuff spilled over into the mold making and into the prosthetic sculpting. Some people do it
yeah.
just that way now. So, I
I
mean, it's
was
fantastic. It's good news. You know.
My brain just went to something that kind of horrifies me. We've all seen the TikTok filters, right? Where suddenly I look good. I have cheekbones and everything. I just thought of this, Brian. You know what can possibly happen in the near future is somebody can be cast as an actor or actress in a play or in a movie, and they just don't like their nostrils enough. So they literally recast this person's face like they want it through the whole thing. And then from every movie forward, there's like an FBX file with their nostrils
Oh,
that
right,
carries
right, right.
along like an
Yep,
actor photo.
right. You made me think, like, I wonder if there have been any special requests from actors or actresses. Like, can we get rid of, like maybe
Yeah,
on a day they were shooting close-ups, they had a blemish that, maybe the makeup made it monochromatic, but it's still like a physical presence on their
yeah,
face.
yeah.
So you never know. I mean, I I'm I'm sure variations of that have come up and, have gone under the radar.
Oh, I'm
If
sure.
we're
Yeah, things
if
we'll
we're
never
if we're
know about.
if we're doing de-aging, digital de-aging, where
Yes.
so
Yep.
to one degree of success or another, because I've seen it
Yeah.
done really well, like in some of the Iron Man movies, some of the de-aging on Robert Downey Jr. was just like, wow.
That was unbelievable.
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I should
yeah.
figure out how to de-age for podcasting. I'd
Yeah.
probably make $1 million.
Hey, could you this is nerdy. I wonder if you could set your webcam up and then set your phone at a certain distance so you're webcamming through the phone filter with the
Oh,
right? You see
oh,
where I'm
that's a
going?
genius idea.
That we'll do that.
Yeah.
We'll tell you what, next time we do one, we gotta
Yeah.
make like a pinky square that will
Yeah.
do at least a minute or two where we
We'll
both have
de-age each
filters on.
other. Deal. We'll do it.
Yeah. Or we'll
Oh
have to
man.
like do the women's filters and all that.
Yeah,
Whatever.
we'll do makeup. We'll do all of it. We'll do
Do
a after
a ma-
dark special.
oh no. Oh, oh, you
Oh, brother.
took it to a dark place. At
I
least in
did.
my
I
mind,
did.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That's fine. I'm
The
I'm
Sam and
here
Brian
for you.
show.
I'm here for you.
All right. Well,
Hey,
we
how come all your recent podcasts you're shirtless?
yeah,
That's that Brian's filter. Brian's got
Brian.
this.
I call it Brian's filter. Yeah,
Yeah,
it lifts and separates.
but I don't know. I was talking to Brian yesterday. He says he wasn't talking with you.
Yeah.
Uh,
He says it's
no,
Sam's filter.
that's right. Uh,
Oh, well, hey, I brought a case. we could talk about.
Yes, very good
Should
one.
we do that?
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
you submitted a couple options and this one
Yeah.
definitely grabbed me. So,
Now, to preface
op
things,
away. Yes.
here, yeah, I'm a super fan, and I was nervous about messaging you at all because I was bracing myself for a no, small timer. I'm not going to be on your dumb podcast, you
Next
know.
time I'll say that.
Yeah, yeah. After you've seen the whites of my eyes and experienced this, you can say no next time. Um, but I sent you a couple cases. I was like, which one, like, resonates with you? And we picked one, and you came back, you're like, I'm prepared. And I was like, oh, okay. Cause everybody that comes on the show is just like, yeah, I'll sit there and, you could talk at me or read a script at me, but you actually know what's kind of going on with this case.
Now,
So
to
I'm
me, that's
excited.
the fun of when you do have a colleague, cohort,
Yeah.
and you guys are kind of on the same page, and I think that's where the magic happens, at least in the past. You know,
It it
The-
it's where it's going to happen today
I
because I'm giving you free reign to interrupt me as I go. I get a little myopic from times, as you probably noticed.
Bri-
So you
Brian
interrupt away.
Brian Brian is googling myopic.
Once you know what it means, you're like, oh hey, look, a
Uh,
picture of the operator right there.
okay.
Oh gosh. All right. Well, I'm going to get started here, and I'll take a couple off ramps, and we can chat about what's going on. And like I said, if there's anything that you know about this case as we're talking, you chime in.
Sure. Yeah. It'll just
Okay.
be like
So
two guys hanging out talking murder. Another
yeah,
day at the office.
exactly. Which we should mention that really quick.
What's that?
So the origin story for you with listening to the show actually is
Huh.
it kind of had a circuitous route. Started with Serial, right? Did it? Is that the podcast it kind of kicked off with?
Um, have you heard similar? Have you talked to people who've had like a similar timeline of how they got to
Yeah,
you? Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Usually,
So it's
yours actually predates because you mentioned that you were listening to Serial, and
Cyril was
then
the first one. Yeah.
right,
That
and then
somehow go ahead.
it sounds like it went from Serial to Mike Boudet with Sword and Scale.
Went to Sword and Scale. Cyril was done. I don't know how I stumbled across Sword and Scale. Uh, and that one really grabbed me. And I was
Yeah,
anytime an episode dropped, I would listen to it. And then he did a spin-off called Monstro,
yeah,
which was like an old radio play where people uh, played the part of a character. And I mentioned this to you. There was a particular episode about it. I'll probably get this detail wrong, but I believe it might have been a German guy who
yep. It was a
was
German guy.
on one of these weird message boards where nothing good ever happens. You noticed that? It's
Yeah,
been more
yeah.
than one story has message boards involved.
That's right.
And he put out an ad, and this might creep out some of you, for he wanted to find somebody who would I'm willing to eat you. You have to be
Yeah.
willing to be literally eaten. And
So
somebody
shocking.
answered the ad. So this particular episode was no, they were all good, but this one just freaked me the F out. And I was playing it in the room we all sculpted in, and everybody was like commenting like this is crazy. But so it went from a sword and scale to Monstro, and Jack Luna's voice kind of got an earwig in my ear. I was like, he's got a
Yep.
very interesting voice. And I have a weird thing where I like, oh, whose voice is that? Ted Cassidy, the guy from the Pirates of the Caribbean, Thurl
Yep.
Ravencroft, all these people. And so I looked into Jack and found Dark Topic.
Yep.
And then somehow, maybe learning through that, maybe he made mention of it. I found 911 calls, and you guys were on there together, and I love the dynamic of the two of you so much. And then that led me further downstream to which is a terrible way to put it, but to true true crime Kent. I didn't mean it in
That's
that
right.
way. And yeah, so it's just been like, connecting the dots. And like you've said, you've heard this more than once,
Well, it doesn't often happen where I'm hearing it from somebody I'm a total fangirl of, though.
Uh,
So
I did
it's
post something about you guys. I did a post where
did you?
listed you guys all off, and like, I don't know if anybody knows what a true crime nerd I am, but these are my favorites in no particular order, and I gave you guys all a shout out. So
Wow. Well,
yeah,
you know what? I'll provide you with some more content so you can do it again if you ever want to. I mean, no
we'll.
pressure, but
Oh no, I had to hold myself back from even hinting at this. So like,
oh,
just wait. It could be something you'll regret.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, TBD on whether or not you ever want to
No,
show up
no,
again,
I
but
already regret it. Yeah. I'm regretting it as we speak.
I I value your
No,
honesty.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I just
um,
wanted to say that.
you, what's funny is kind of two ships passing in the night while you were listening to Monstro. Fun fact. For a brief moment, I handled all the merch for Sword and Scale and created the Monstro t-shirt and hat that was sold. And so I was in the background doing merch and designs. That was my end of podcasting.
Was it?
I was trying to help these guys out, and Jack and I started talking, and I was honestly, all I was doing was I was editing Jack's show for a little bit. Um, just not nothing creative. I was just cutting it, I was just fixing it, taking out his outtakes and all that, and doing merch for Sword and Scale and for Dark Topic. And then one morning, I'll never forget, I woke up, it was a Sunday morning, and Jack had texted me. He's like, "Hey, you should do a podcast." And I was like, "What?" And then the rest is kind of history. I wouldn't be here
Wow.
without Jack and
Wow.
without Mike.
Wow.
Honestly, I wouldn't be
Yeah.
here.
No,
So
I hear you. That's very sweet of you to acknowledge that. Yeah.
it's been a journey. So I'm glad we've all kind of been on it together, and it's wild, just that,
Actually, I've been in the background on your journey.
well, and I don't blame you for not knowing this, but my individual um social media channels have followed you for a long time. And so that's when I saw that you were following the 911 calls podcast, I was like, what's happening? Again, I was
Oh,
like, a
you're very sweet.
two-time Oscar.
Oh, don't say that. Have you ever seen that acceptance speech of Jim Carrey's where he
Yeah.
says, the only thing that makes me feel something along, I'm paraphrasing, how it feels to be two-time Golden Globe
Yeah.
winner Jim Carrey. Oh, he's so good. He's so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never want to
Oh,
be that guy. No.
I'll be
Yeah,
that guy for you. So you don't have to. Oh, man. All right. Let's get into this case a little bit.
sure.
So today we're going to an island off the coast of Essex, England, where the only road in is also the only road out. It's called the Strood, and it's a causeway. It's kind of a low, flat ribbon of tarmac that connects Mersey Island or Mersey Island. I listened to a lot of ways of saying it, and Mersey is not exactly right. It's more like Mersey is how they say it. It's
Gotcha.
just a little more, laid back. So
I didn't
forgive,
even know they named that little connecting piece.
yeah, the
You have more
Strood.
information. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So if you're from Mersey and you're listening to this, hopefully I'm doing the name of your island justice, but Mersey Island, and that, yeah, the Strood is just this little tiny connector that connects the island to the mainland. And twice a day, the tide comes in and swallows the strip. So if you
Didn't know
time it
that.
wrong, you're either stuck on the island or you're stuck off of it. And there's no bridge, there's no tunnel, there's one road, and the ocean gets a vote on whether you can
I
use it.
didn't
So
know that. I didn't know
isn't that
that.
wild?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
good,
So
good research. So I know
yeah.
that's your
So
job, but yeah.
well, every once in a while I pat myself on the back because I'll tell you what, with something like a case like this, I mean, it's been done before. And you and I were talking about legacy, and I'm like, is my legacy just regurgitating stories people have heard before? But I pride myself on trying to find little tiny facts that maybe didn't make the big, documentaries and stuff.
What are all those awards that I always hear you joking around
Oh
about?
yeah.
Uh,
Oh yeah. Award winning. Yeah,
yes,
I'm award winning. I've got tons of emojis.
that's
Yeah.
right.
Oh yeah.
I know.
Tons of
You're,
emojis from
you're very
people.
cute.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So I bring that up because it matters. It's going to matter. Not necessarily like in a logistical crime scene way. Nobody was trapped by tide. Nobody made a dramatic getaway across this flooded road. It matters though because it tells you something about the kind of place this is. So Mersey Island is not a suburb. It is not a commuter town that happens to be near water. It is a small, tight, physically separated community where people know each other's cars, each other's dogs, their businesses, everything about each other. So it's the kind of place where if you sneeze on a Monday, someone asks if you're feeling better by Wednesday. It's that connected.
That's cute.
And yeah, and that closeness that everybody know as everybody quality is the thing that made this case really possible. And it's also the thing that made it almost impossible to solve. Because here's what I need you to understand before we get into any of this. The person at the center of this story, the one who did it, was not in the shadows. He wasn't a stranger that like nobody recognized. He was not the guy the neighbors always thought was, a little off. He was the opposite of all that. He was the guy who volunteered at the carnival. He played Santa Claus at local events and, helped charities. He also did free IT work for small businesses. So, it was somebody people knew. He was quiet. He was polite. He was always willing to lend a hand. And when he was arrested for, get this, a double murder, somewhere between 30 and 40 people in this tiny community offered to be character witnesses on his behalf.
That's what I heard. I heard it was like an unheard of amount of character
Yeah.
witnesses.
On an island like that, 30 to 40, that's a good chunk of the island, I'd say, and so that's some momentum if you're looking to get, innocent. So the lead investigator on this case said she'd never seen anything like that number before, and not once in her career or since. You hear and you think, okay, either this guy fooled a staggering number of people or the police got it catastrophically wrong. So between what the community believed and what actually happened inside one house on the island is what the entire case runs on. So now, the island itself, Mersey, sits on the Essex coast, northeast of London. It's known for oysters, sailing, coastal walks, not really much else. West Mersey is the main village, and that's where most of the residents live, where the shops are, the yacht club is, and where you got your pubs.
Have you looked at any images of Mersey Island?
Yeah.
It's really cute.
Beautiful.
It's beautiful.
I look at it and I'm like, now that all the murders are done, I want to go there.
Unfortunate timing. You missed that one. Oh, if only I'd known about it when all the murders were going on. I could have got property cheap.
I'm Mr. Opposite, though. I remember in the late 90s, I want to say, it was in the 1900s, that's what I remember, that Jack in the Box had a terrible thing happen, salmonella. Like they had an outbreak of salmonella and people were getting,
remember that.
Yeah, terribly sick. And like a week later, people were like, I'm never eating there again. And I'm like, I'm going there today because it's probably the safest place to eat right now because
they've doubled down on their precautions. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
that's smart.
I'm the same way with travel. I don't know if you remember.
Like all the murders are out of the way.
Exactly. Like the travel agents think it's going to be terrible for business. And here's Sam ringing up the phone like, hey.
Yeah, I can
Uh,
get you a good deal, a package deal.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
A couple of years ago, Hawaii burned down. I was on the phone with the travel agent, like, "Hey, can I go?" And
No.
they're like, "Really? Yeah,
Oh, you're
yeah.
smart. You're really smart.
$175 round trip ticket." I was like, "Okay, deal." It's crazy.
Wow. All
Yeah,
right. I will add that to the
exactly.
Now I
So
know how you are. No, I didn't mean it that way.
those are the travel secrets from
Yeah.
911 Calls
Smart.
podcast. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's West Mersey though we're talking about. So then you got East Mersey, and that's smaller and it's quieter. It's more spread out. The whole island has that particular kind of East English coastal energy. You know, it's all kind of a bit windswept, a little salt scrubbed, pretty in the summer and really bleak in the winter. It's the kind of place people retire to, not the kind of place that ends up in a murder file as much though. So that, Brian, is where Stephen and Carol Baxter lived. Now, if you're with me so far, I need to talk about them first because the case pivots around them before the investigation, before any of it. Because the thing that tends to get lost in stories like this is that people at the center of it were real. They're real people. They had full lives and stupid jokes and retirement plans and grandchildren they wanted to spoil. And if I don't put that on the table now, then everything that comes after just kind of becomes a puzzle. And this isn't a puzzle, it's a family. Sometimes we lose sight of that on podcasts, but so let me tell you about these guys. So first we have Stephen Baxter. He was 61 years old. He was an engineer by trade, the kind who monitored buildings and ran safety checks. He'd worked internationally. He spent time in the States and in Dubai, climbed his way up to a senior executive position with a multi-billion pound property firm. You don't hear that very often. It's usually multi-million dollar, but
Dollar. Yeah.
it's England. So by every account, he was a grinder. He was hardworking, steady, family first kind of guy. His motto, and you'll love this, is there are no shortcuts in life. It's simple, it's sweet, and that's just what he stuck by. He's the kind of guy whose idea of a good retirement was playing more golf. He called his wife his driving force, and people who saw him in the week before he died described him as happy and jovial, just like they had always described him. Then we have Carol Baxter, and she was 64, so she was robbing the cradle with 61-year-old Stephen. And Carol was, okay, look, Carol was a force. She grew up on a council estate in London, which for the American listeners is public housing. She became a math teacher. She worked in adult education and then made a sharp pivot into entrepreneurship. So she and Stephen co-founded a company called Kaz Splash. Carol was the creative engine behind the company, and she did the product design. She helped the intellectual property, ran the day-to-day as managing director, and Stephen brought the business side. So together they built themselves into what the local press would later call self-made millionaires. So millionaire
So,
Clayboy,
no,
you
no.
know, you can
Uh,
relate.
2 for 99-cent Playboy.
Oh gosh.
Um, uh, but to what you just mentioned,
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting that they made all this money off of, am I right? And it was essentially like bath mats?
Yeah. Yeah. Bath items. Yes.
Right, right, right.
It's crazy. And they did very well for themselves. They
Yes, they
they
did.
ended up they lived in a 5-bedroom detached house worth about £1 million. And on an island that size, you know, that's
Something, yeah.
everybody sees it. Yeah. So, but more than the house and maybe even more than the business, the way people described Carol in particular was bubbly and outgoing. She was vibrant. She was bright. She was also, you can take that. You want to
No,
take it? Oh, okay. Well,
not a second off. Hey,
hey, Hey, Christian Bale, can I call you back?
Yeah.
Well, I was
Uh,
about to just let it play and I'd use it as like theme music behind my explanation for
oh, no.
Carol because it
Yeah, yeah.
would have fit. She's
Do,
bubbly. So,
quick, Chris, do you have
yeah.
any recordings from anything? Do you have any?
Yeah.
You do. Oh,
Yeah, I got a couple. Yeah, so
all right.
we'll
Oh,
dig into those. She was the kind of person who, I hate to say it, you hear this when people always pass away, but she filled a room and she made you feel like you mattered while she was in it. And really, I guess in a way that's the brass ring, right? We all
yes.
want to
Be
feel like
remembered that way. Yeah.
when we're not around that people would feel like we mattered or that we made them feel like they mattered when we were around. So, like a lot of grandmothers, she doted on her grandchildren. She and her daughter Ellie had regular mother-daughter days. She was planning for retirement. She did art classes, more time with the family, the kind of future that you kind of earn after decades of working harder than anyone expected you to. So you hear two people who clawed their way up from council estates, built a life, built a business, raised a family, landed on an island where they were finally going to enjoy everything they'd earned. Now, hold that, because I also need to tell you about their daughter. So then we got Ellie Baxter. She was 22 years old when this story ends.
22 when this story starts. Or
Yes, kind of
depending how
starts
you,
and ends, I guess.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Starts for us, ends for them.
exactly. Yes. So she had known, in this case, she had known the man who would eventually destroy her family since she was about 13. So she considered him
What?
a
I
brother.
didn't
Yeah.
know that.
Yeah. They'd known each other a long time. And she trusted him completely. And when the worst day of her life arrived, she was 4 months pregnant. So Ellie matters in this story for reasons that go well beyond the person who found the bodies. And I'm not giving much away here because this story's got a lot of twists and turns, so don't worry. But I'm getting a bit ahead of myself by saying that. But so let me back up and tell you about a quiet, mild-mannered IT guy named Luke DeWitt, who walked into the Baxters' lives in 2014, and why, by the time anyone realized what he actually was, it was far too late to stop him. So in 2014, Stephen and Carol Baxter put out an ad for someone to eat. Just kidding.
Full circle.
Full circle.
Yeah, a
No.
little message board. That was good.
They were rich, I'm sure they could
Yeah.
find a popper or two to,
No.
pop into their mouths. No, 2014, they put out an ad. They needed someone's help to set up a
They
website
needed
for
a
their.
fourth for dinner.
Yes,
Right?
exactly. They had a large bucket, a large bowl, and they needed it filled. No, they needed their website. Or they needed a website for Kaz Splash, their business. So basic IT work, really. So a mutual friend connected them with a local guy who's young, he's quiet, seemed to know his way around computers.
To
His name was Luke
himself.
DeWitt. Yeah, kept to himself. Exactly.
All
We've
the
heard all this
earmarks.
before.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
He
Had
was a quiet
strained
guy.
Exactly. Mom had a strained relationship with him, but
Yeah.
now he was 24 years old. He lived with his parents on Mersey Island. He claimed to have a master's degree in computer science. He did
Plain.
not have a
Wow.
master's degree, yes, in
Didn't
computer
know
science.
that. Uh-huh.
Yeah. But nobody checked. Why? I don't know. Why would you? He's polite. He was competent enough, right? So he charged about 15 quid
He'll
an
let
hour.
you eat him.
Yeah, exactly. If you can't buy the whole hog, he'll give you an arm,
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. But now he's competent enough, right? He does the work. He charged about 15 quid an hour, came in 2 days a week, and he did what he has asked. Carol liked him. Stephen thought he was fine, as he put it. They gave him access to the business email accounts and the bank accounts because that's what you do when your IT person needs to manage things, right? So they brought him into strategic discussions about the company. Carol even paid for training courses to help him develop his own skills. So that's pretty nice.
Very nice.
And
Good
right
gig when
there,
you can get it.
exactly, somebody who's willing to pay for on-the-job training, I'll take that
Yeah.
any day. That right there, in that ordinary, unremarkable small business decision, the door opened. Now, here's the thing. If Luke DeWitt had stayed in that lane, the IT guy who comes twice a week, fixes the Wi-Fi, none if this happens, but Luke did not stay in that lane. Luke never stays in lane. Over the next 7 years, from 2014 to 2021, he inched himself deeper and deeper into the Baxter family's orbit. Not fast, not in like a way that sets off alarms, just steadily, persistently. He went from kind of contractor to fixture. He showed up at family dinners. He was there for special occasions. They gave him the security code to the front gate. They gave him access to a key safe so he could let himself into the house when he needed to. So let me ask you this, Brian. In your industry, like you mentioned, playing our show on the speaker in the place where you sculpt with the other guys. Does this MO fit sculptors? Kind of keeps to themselves, quiet.
Oh, oh my God. It can when they're busy sculpting. Yeah, for
There
sure.
you go.
It's a very solitary pursuit at times.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
for
I
sure.
was trying to figure out. I'm like,
Shit,
how?
thanks, Op. They're all serial killers. Yeah. Huh, where did all my followers go?
No, but it took me back to thinking. I was like, how did Millionaire Clay? Like, when does Millionaire Clayboy have the time to listen to my show? And then I kind of put two and two together, and I thought, your job is one where your hands are moving all the time, but you've probably got a lot of time for your earballs to absorb stuff, right?
I used to listen to music all the time to get I'm always constantly trying to stay in this region lovingly referred to as the zone, where where everything is just flowing. You're at one with whatever you're working on, and you're in a happy place. And then one day I thought, like, oh, how many years have I been doing that? I could be listening to podcasts and learning stuff, and you know, like educating myself on something, and that's when I really dove into the podcasts, and as good fortune would have it, that my colleagues were loving it as well. So,
well, I'm glad they were. It's funny because we have similar origin stories when I was doing merch for these other podcasters and stuff. I was listening. I was listening to podcasts. That's like, because all I did all day long was, I was cranking out 10,000 hats for a company or this or that. And so
dude, you're so fortunate. That's such thank you for telling me about that. What a wonderful, I don't know if you want to say happenstance or.
Yeah, it definitely was. Yeah, it was. The entry point is very unique. I would have never. I wouldn't be where I'm at right now had I not. There was a little encounter that Mike Boudet had with Sword and Scale, where you just mentioned, where did all my followers go? Well, on somebody else's show one time, Mike made a comment, an offhand comment. It wasn't even on his own show. He made an offhand comment that seemed off color about. I think it was had to do with women, and he did it.
I think I caught wind of this because he kind of, there was a backlash,
all the way, if you go all the way back to Serial, the podcast, the gal from Serial, like, it was blood in the water. She was like, how dare he say this the day before International Women's Day and all this. And his patreon.com, they decided to kill his account, and he had thousands of followers. Like, overnight, he lost
all of them.
Everything. And I'm just this merch guy. I'm just this guy. I don't know anybody in the industry yet or anything. And
were you there when that happened?
No, not yet.
Okay,
I was
okay.
just listening to the shows and I decided, you know what? So I pulled up Illustrator and I created the sword and scale logo, but instead of the scale being in the center, I broke it down and it was laying in the bottom of the circle of the logo. And instead of sword and scale, it said spare the sword. And I just turned it
Ooh,
into a shirt. So I
sure.
made a shirt and I put it on my shirt press and I videoed myself opening the shirt press and seeing the spare the sword logo. And I posted it online just as a random thing. Jack saw it and messaged me and was like, "You should show Mike this." And I was like, "I don't know how to get in touch with Mike
Yeah,
at all."
sure. Yeah.
And he was like, I think he either sent it to him or I can't remember. He sent me his number or something, and I sent it to him. Mike says, "I'll take 10,000." And it was,
Wow.
he wasn't
Right, right.
serious about it, but that started everything.
Get
That's how it
out of
started.
here.
Isn't that
Wow.
wild? Yeah.
And that happened, and then that happened, and then that happened.
Yep.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. I mean, while you're listening to those guys and all the roads start merging to us being here, you and I, those roads were all merging at the same time for me
What
behind
are
the
the
scenes.
odds?
Small world. Well, back to the story, I guess. Similar to that, all roads for Luke and Stephen and Carol were starting to converge at this point. And then 2021 hit, something shifted in that. So Luke's father died, long battle with cancer. During the illness, his father had been prescribed fentanyl patches for pain management. And I need you to file that detail away because
At their
it
back
becomes
pocket.
one of the most important. Yeah. And you know where this is headed, and we'll both just act shocked for the rest of the audience. But it's one of the most important facts in this entire story. So after his father passed, people who knew Luke said he became incredibly lonely. He did not have a wide social circle to begin with. He was introverted, mild-mannered, maybe like a merch guy or a sculptor. I don't know.
Scott, I was gonna say that. God damn it. You set it up. I was gonna wait. Not small circle of friends.
Small. His mom is relatively proud of him.
Wait, are we talking podcasters or
I think we might be talking
sculptors?
about me.
Same thing. Same thing.
Same. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's apples to apples.
Oh,
But he was like, I don't know. Honestly, he was probably like a lot of us. He was just this introverted, mild mannered kind of guy. He just sat quietly in the corner during meetings, and the Baxters, being the people they were, did what decent people do. They took him under their wing. They included him more. They checked on him. They treated him, in Ellie's words, like family. So around this same time, Luke told the Baxters something else. He said he'd been diagnosed with bone marrow cancer. So there were no medical records supporting this. None. It was completely fabricated. But why would they know that? They're not going to ask for
right.
proof, right? But the family didn't know that, right? So they rallied around him. They gave him flexibility for his supposed chemotherapy appointments. When he came back complaining of headaches and fatigue, they took care
So
of him.
he's
Yeah.
starting the beginning of his kind of like grooming of them
Yes,
of a sort.
exactly.
Is that appropriate term?
I think so in this
Yeah.
case. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think, yeah, it was definitely grooming because they were feeding right, not only, no pun intended, they weren't just feeding right into his hand, but they were feeding him at this point. They were worried about him. So now you've got this young man who's lost his father, who claims to be fighting cancer, who's embedded in this family's home and business. He's got keys and passwords and daily access. And he's being treated with the kind of tenderness you'd give a son. And I want to pause here for a second because does that dynamic make sense to you? Like, can you see from the outside that looks like a family being extraordinarily kind to a lonely young man, and how from the inside something completely different might be happening, you
I
know?
could see the outside happening countless times around the world 24/7.
Yes.
That
Yep.
much I can see. But what makes me love or be mystified by true crime is the is just being gobsmacked at what is lurking below the surface. What
Yep.
really, uh, go on, please.
Well, this is you're right on, because I think we all see the outside of these kind of scenarios happening all the time. And when you see something this wholesome as was being kind of architected by their dynamic, no one ever looks at that and goes, "Oh, I just hope there's nothing creepy going on
Yeah,
behind this." Like no
uh,
one's
thank
ever thinking that.
thank God he's not a sculptor.
Does he have a merch business? Because we should really be, checking on
Careful.
him.
Yeah.
Well, you're right, though. In this case, this is where the story takes a turn that I genuinely want everybody to brace for. So Luke DeWitt did not just embed himself in the Baxter family. He built a second world around them. So an entire fictional universe populated with people who did not exist, and designed to control every aspect of Carol Baxter's life. And he ran it for years. It it all started with a doctor. So in early 2022, Carol began receiving emails from a woman named Dr. Andrea Bowden, and she was presented as a renowned American endocrinologist based in Florida. And she specialized in hormone-related diseases. Now, Carol had been living with Hashimoto's disease since 2005. And fun fact, no, small world, I have Hashimoto's disease.
I didn't do a
It's
deep dive on that.
well, it sounds scary.
It, it
And
does.
what it is basically your thyroid in your throat just kind of stops working. So you're committed then at that point to taking a thyroid med for the rest of your life, basically, to
Okay.
keep your, so it sound like, I can make it sound all woeful, but it's something that affects a lot of people. So
Okay.
she'd been suffering with it since 2005. It's an autoimmune condition, attacks the thyroid. It's real and it's chronic, and it'd been slowly worsening for her for years. So she had a legitimate general practitioner managing it. So she's got her local doc, handling it. And she was on proper medication. But by 2021, Carol was not feeling great. And so she was looking for answers.
Wasn't she getting some response from a couple of her doctors that was feeling like they were saying it was possibly psychosomatic, which nobody
Yes,
wants to hear. Nobody wants to hear that.
nobody, exactly. And so, you're getting mixed results. And I think, like any of us, when your doctor stops maybe believing you or doubting the symptoms, we all, and if they seem real to us, and that's kind of the bane of the psychosomatic disorder of things, is psychosomaticism is still manifesting what we believe to be real symptoms.
Right. You're still
They may
getting the
not be there.
symptoms. Right. Right.
Exactly. So she's not feeling great, and she started looking for answers. So Luke told the family that he had done the research that led Carol to Dr. Bowden. So of course he did, right? Because Dr.
Yes.
Andrea Bowden, surprise, was Luke DeWitt in this case. He created the email address of Dr. Andrea Bowden. He wrote every message. He built an entire persona from scratch, qualifications, specialization, tone, backstory. And the communication did not start slow. It escalated very fast. So there were multiple contacts per day from Dr. Andrea Bowden, thousands of emails over the course of the relationship. Dr. Bowden had opinions about Carol's diet and her exercise and her medication, daily routine,
Very strong opinions. Yeah.
everything. Yes. How is she sleeping? What about your social life? Well, your family relationships, she had opinions on a ton of stuff.
And
And
rules.
yes, that was
Yeah.
the thing. That was the real functioning part here. And I think honestly, you're 100% accurate in that the thing that made this operable or functional maybe, is that she had these rules that she was starting to impose. This fake doctor, which was Luke, she starts imposing these rules on her, and the rules were getting tighter and tighter. So not only did Luke create Dr. Bowden, Luke also created a patient named Cheryl Herring, and another woman supposedly being treated by Dr. Bowden for Hashimoto's. Carol and Cheryl developed a close friendship over email. So they bonded over their shared illness. They supported each other. Carol trusted her completely. Luke then created Cheryl's husband, Cheryl's
Yes.
two children,
Yes.
and Cheryl's own sister. Like, all these people are fake, but
Yes.
Cheryl's sister was named Jenny Trencher. So Jenny's important, and I'll tell you why in a moment here. He created another patient, though, named Linda Edwards. Linda also had Hashimoto's. Linda also followed the rules. And
The
so this was
rules.
another way of him getting Carol to comply, was because her friends, these fake friends that were actually Luke, were saying, "Oh, well, I follow the rules. You should make sure
Yeah.
you do too."
Follow the rules. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he created Marnie Pantry, a fourth member who built a WhatsApp group for these women to talk to each other. So
Yes.
Carol thought she was part of a community. She thought she'd found people who understood what she was going through. She had no idea that every single voice in that group was the same 24-year-old IT consultant sitting in the bedroom on Mersey Island, typing on multiple phones with unregistered SIM cards for over 80 countries. This is how far this spans. So I want to sit with that for a second.
Yeah.
We should process the scale of this, because we've covered a lot of cases and I've seen a lot of manipulation, but this is a level of construction that's almost architectural. This isn't just a guy who told a few lies. This is a guy who built an entire parallel reality and moved a family into it. And he maintained it. He maintained it daily across multiple platforms, across multiple identities for years, while he's sitting with them, looking them in the eye. You know,
For
it's crazy.
13 and a half months from
Unbelievable.
the start of Dr. Andrea Bowden's uh manifestation till they were dead. That
Till they were dead. 13 and a half months. So
he
now
maintained all of that craziness.
I can't, like, I have a hard enough time making it look like I'm busy writing episodes. I don't know how this guy packed in, the multiple personalities of, umpteen number of people, WhatsApp accounts and I don't know how he did it.
If you don't mind me mentioning, because it's exactly what you're talking about,
Yeah.
there is a documentary which we can talk about, but there is a scene in it where the daughter later goes through her phone, uh, uh, what do you want to call it? Information, or she does a
Yeah.
deep dive on her phone,
Hmm.
like when she was texting with this fictitious doctor, and there's some supporting video that the husband was like very, very good at documenting the day-to-day goings on of his wife. And I'm not sure if he would submit it to the doctor, but he was making his own basically documentary of her day-to-day health and well-being. And there is a moment where the husband is filming the wife,
Hmm.
and in the
Yeah.
background is Luke DeWitt on the phone, and that timeline lines up with her. She didn't know that as she's texting Dr. Bowden, she can now look at the video and see Luke DeWitt texting her back. And I'm like,
And
ooh,
yeah, it blows my mind to think of how many times their spidey senses could have gone off when she hits the button to hit send, and
and
Luke
his,
is in earshot, right? And his phone goes ba-ding ding. And
I
how many
didn't think
times
about that.
how many times did that happen? And they were like, "Oh, that's weird." Well, that's weird.
I
Or
I
maybe
think
not even, you know?
yeah, I think he probably had to turn that off, you
He
know,
was probably on
because
stun,
that would have
on vibrate.
that that would make a good uh uh little in joke on one of those Scream films. You know how they're always parodying, "Where could that
Yeah.
killer be?" Ding, you know, it's right there.
Ding ding. I
Yeah,
see you, Jenny.
yeah. But I think I think the husband had a little weird. I don't know if it qualifies as a full-blown spidey sense, but
Yeah.
he wasn't as on board as the wife. Maybe
And I
that's a
think
nice way
that's
to put it.
yeah, and I want to say that's probably pretty common. Like I know when it comes to like my wife, when
You're
I
not
when I
your
visit
fault.
the doctor, yeah, yeah, as a
Her fault.
podcaster, you
Okay.
know. But you know, like when I go to the doctor with for my wife and or we're in a hospital or something, I'm her I'm cautious always, you know. I'm not I
Yeah.
don't question doctors or anything, but I'm, you know, I remember one time we went in and she was having really bad stomach pains. And I mean, a lot of us know this. There aren't any bones in the stomach. It's just a, you know, it's an organ. And she had all these stomach pains. And so the doctors are doing all this stuff. And then they come in and this like nurse like unratchets the bed to wheel her out. And I'm like, where are you taking her? And they were like, oh, we're going to do an x-ray. And I'm like, of the
Don't worry your
stomach?
pretty little head.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
And they're like, we're going to x-ray. And I said, the stomach? And they were like, yeah, we just want to rule everything out. And I'm like, well, I know she didn't swallow a Hot Wheel, so you're not going to see anything in her stomach, you know. And I wasn't mean, but I was like, no, I think we're okay. Hey, it turns out she was just dehydrated. But sometimes, you know,
From the
I can
Hot
kind of,
Wheel.
yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. She had swallowed too
Sorry.
many that day, you know,
No.
but
Poor thing.
I like what you're saying though. I can relate maybe with Steven having a bit of a spidey sense when it comes to Luke, right?
Yeah.
So
I was the same
now,
with a friend of mine when she was in the hospital for she had
yeah.
a brain tumor of all things.
Oh gosh. Well, and so you know that like it's good to have somebody on your side when it comes to not suspicion, but just, you know, somebody there to add an extra layer of kind of second opinion, maybe, you know.
Agreed.
So now we've got Jenny Trencher. Remember, she was presented as Cheryl Herring's sister. She was supposedly, in this case, a theater producer in London, and she was not designed for Carol. She was actually designed by Luke for Ellie.
The
So
daughter.
Luke, yeah. So Luke knew that Ellie loved singing. So Jenny, this warm, encouraging, well-connected theater person, reached out to Ellie. She asked Ellie for vocal samples, and she became a daily confidant for Ellie. Ellie exchanged messages with Jenny every single day, and she shared personal information. She shared family details. She shared information about her parents' will with Jenny. Investigators later recovered audio, and this is, we're going to play it, from Luke's phone. This is Luke DeWitt practicing the voice of Jenny Trencher. So here, I'll play this for you now for your earballs. Here we go. Where do I got it? Here we go.
You have to say it.
Here we go.
Hi, Carol. It's Jenny. It's Cheryl's sister. Yes. Oh, so nice to finally speak to you after all these messages we've been doing. Oh, my dear. Hi, Carol. It's nice to speak to you. Yes, this is Sandra. How are you? Is this Ellie? My name's Jan. I think we've spoken before.
That is so
Oh,
eerie.
it's
Now,
it's messed up. It's creepy knowing what we know now. It also, and tell me if you feel it, it also sounds like a guy trying to do, to me, it sounds like
oh,
the Monty Python guys.
oh, you took the words out of my mouth. I wrote it in the script. I was like, that's Monty Python. That's not like,
You
that's
can
all I could
just
think of.
catch it a little bit,
Yeah.
something about it.
it was Little Britain and Monty Python and all the, like, it was a man on every British comedy show we've ever
Yes.
seen.
Yes.
That he could pull it off and have anybody believe it is unbelievable. But here we go. So
maybe the grandmas sound like that over there.
Yeah, right.
Sound like male comedians affecting a voice.
Exactly. So what's wild about this is every single word Ellie or Carol was sent straight to Luke DeWitt's phone. So think about what he had built. He had a fake doctor controlling Carol's medical care. He had a fake support group reinforcing the doctor's authority. He had a fake friend extracting intelligence from Ellie, financial access to the business. He had physical access to the house, emotional access to the entire family, and not one of them had any idea that all of these people, every single one, were the same person.
It's mind-blowing.
Unbelievable. So later, after everything came out, Ellie described the moment she finally kind of put all the dots together, connected them. She called it a domino effect. She said, quote, "If Jenny's not real, then Cheryl's not real. And they're in the same group as Linda, and they're all from Dr. Andrea. So every domino, same hand." And it kind of reminds me of when Sam 2.0 was a little kid. He had lost a tooth, and he was he was getting older, a little older, lost a tooth. And I was in his room, and we put it under the pillow for the tooth fairy. And he just had this look in his eye, and he looks at me and he goes, "You're the tooth fairy, aren't you?" And I was like, "Well, maybe. Like, are you okay with that?" And he's, yeah. And you could just tell it kind of broke his heart a little. But then over the next hour, the rest of his world came down because he was just connecting all. He's like, "Santa's not real. And what about the Easter?" Like, it was over.
No.
All of it in one night. It was. And so, in a way,
I'm call you Sam the Soul Crusher.
Exactly. He's a smart kid, so he came to it, and I was just there to kind of, assist in confirming the dots were connected, right?
Hand him the Kleenex.
Yeah, exactly. That was my role. But Ellie's doing the same thing after the fact on a terrible scale, and almost a scale that, like, you'd be surprised if the CIA could put it together, Yeah. But in this case, it's true. And by the time Carol's health started to really collapse in ways that terrified the family, baffled every specialist who examined her, Luke was already the most important person in her life. He was her IT consultant, business partner, informal carer, daily companion, and through Dr. Bowden, her primary medical authority. He was also the person making her sick. So here is where I need to walk you through something that is genuinely difficult to talk about. Not because it's graphic. It's not in the way you might expect. It's difficult because it's slow and it's patient and it's cruel in a way that doesn't look like cruelty from the outside. So starting in approximately 2021, around the same time his father died, around the same time Dr. Andrea Bowden appeared, Luke DeWitt began poisoning Carol Baxter. Not with fentanyl, not yet at least, but with promethazine. Now, if you're not familiar with promethazine, it's an antihistamine. You can buy it over the counter in the UK under the brand name Nugent. Hope I'm saying that right. It's a soft G, not a hard G. I think if you say it the other way, it starts sounding more inappropriate. So it's Nugent. In normal doses, it treats allergies. It's they use it for motion sickness or nausea, but in excess, and I mean significantly excess, it does something else entirely. It causes drowsiness, agitation, nervousness. It can disorient you. It can depress you. And at high enough sustained levels, delirium. Sounds kind of good.
Sign me up.
Sounds like a good Thursday evening.
And it also exacerbates some other medications. Like
yes.
So.
Exactly. So all of those things. Now, think about a 62-year-old woman with a diagnosed autoimmune thyroid condition whose symptoms are already expected to include fatigue, cognitive fog, and physical decline. If you're poisoning that woman with something that mimics and even amplifies her existing symptoms, who's going to catch it? Not her GP. Her GP thinks it's the Hashimoto's progressing.
Right.
Specialist thinks it's the Hashimoto's. Family, Hashimoto's. And the one person who could explain what actually is going on is the one person preparing her daily health tonics. So Luke made Carol drinks every single day. He was her, and I'm not making this term up, this is what the family called him, her mixologist.
That's right.
So he prepared herbal concoctions, health tonics, wellness drinks, all under the guidance of Dr. Andrea Bowden. And I got as just an aside here, I've thought about this. I was actually mentioning to my wife the other day that I get it now why rich people choose the lowest hanging fruit first, the ones that we all kind of make fun of, how they all have a maid, and they'll have maids, they'll have people that drive them places, they have people that do their gardening, or I hate managing a pool. You have to be a chemist to do pools.
Okay.
So having a pool boy,
Sure.
and I think about that. One of the low hanging fruit for me, if there were signs that I became wealthy, I'd probably have a mixologist or like a food preparer of some sort.
Oh, wouldn't that be nice?
Wouldn't it? Like, you're done with this, and they're like,
Yeah.
Brian, that went really long. I got your dinner warming. You'd be like, thank you. Gosh. So I can't imagine, especially Carol and Stephen, they're doing well. So having Luke do these things is,
Sure.
probably feels pretty good. So every day he's doing these. So he's preparing herbal concoctions, wellness drinks, and he was lacing them with crushed promethazine tablets. So investigators later found a makeshift pestle and mortar in his bedroom that had remnants of crushed tablets still in it. So they found capsules packed with 4 times the therapeutic dose of promethazine. They found the Nugent packaging. They found the empty capsule shells. He said he did this for approximately 2 years. That's a long time to be doing this.
That's creepy in and of itself.
Yeah. So over those 2 years, Carol Baxter completely falls apart. So I want you to hear what that actually looks like, because the details matter. So Carol, this vibrant, sharp, bubbly woman who ran a business, taught math, filled every room, as we heard, she began losing hours of her day. So she couldn't recall what she'd done. She developed tremors. Her speech became difficult. She experienced extreme confusion. She ironed a shirt on the kitchen stovetop. She put bleach in a kettle one time.
She was starting to make some mistakes. I remember.
Yeah, I mean, these things were starting to happen. She put frozen chips on the face of her iPad for some reason. We're not sure why.
Okay.
So here's the thing that we should sit on with this. While this was happening, while Carol was literally dissolving right in front of everybody's eyes, Luke DeWitt was in the room. He was there every single day. He was the dutiful carer, the concerned friend. The guy showed up, walked them to the gym, prepared her drinks, made sure she was following the quote-unquote doctor's orders.
Yeah.
Investigators found video footage of Carol in this state, confused, deteriorating, frightened, with Luke visible in the background. You brought that up, remember? And so we're seeing all this, and it's being documented, And the creepy part is, if people watch that documentary that we mentioned, he's giggling in the video. He's giggling and smiling. So her own son, Harry, said it later. He was in the background giggling and smiling, knowing he's the one inflicting all this pain. So the investigators on this case called it what it was. She said the 2-year poisoning campaign was nothing short of torture. There's one more thing I want to bring up here. So February 2022, Carol Baxter was hospitalized. An X-ray revealed a 17 millimeter metal nail lodged in her colon. 17 millimeters. That's not a speck of something she accidentally swallowed or sat on. That's a nail, a real nail. No one could explain how it got there. It was treated as a bizarre medical anomaly. When police later searched Luke DeWitt's bedroom, they found a bag of
Of those
identical
same
metal
nails.
nails. Yeah. So he had concealed a nail inside a capsule and fed it to her.
Gosh,
Yeah. What a crazy guy.
what an evil bastard. That's
So,
evil.
yeah, what kind of person does that? That's not, to me, that's a certain sort of criminal that is, he's watching the torture he's applying on center stage. He's not like,
Yeah, he
this
wanted
isn't
to
like a,
see if there's gonna, here, let me see if there's a result to this.
yeah.
He's poking it, the illness. But it's disgusting.
Yeah. And also there's really, like, if you think of the whole thing, what's the purpose of that? It's not financial at that point. When he's feeding her nails, it doesn't advance any scheme. It's not strategic and in any way that makes sense. So what is it? So we'll hold that question. Crazy, because I don't have a clear answer. Neither did the investigators, and neither did the judge. But I think the answer lives somewhere in the control, in kind of the testing, the boundary pushing that he was doing, the quiet thrill of seeing what he could get away with, maybe. If you map that escalation that way, I think it tracks. So social access first, then professional access, emotional access follows that, then through medical control, through the fake doctor, then poisoning, then a nail in the capsule starts making sense if you start looking at it as like each step's a little further than the last, kind of confirms that, no one was going to stop him in his mind. Now, while Carol was declining, Dr. Andrea Bowden was doing something else. Something that might be even more insidious than the poisoning itself. She was isolating Carol from every person and institution that could help her. So the rules started small. She had dietary guidelines, and then exercise recommendations, rest schedules, kind of thing that a real doctor might suggest. But they escalated. Dr. Bowden told Carol to limit contact with her family, claiming that emotional interactions released too many chemicals in the adrenal gland and produced cortisol, which, according to the fake doctor, was one way to the grave. That was a quote, one way to the grave, Dr. Carol Bowden said. So she took Carol to step back from her GP's care. When Carol's actual GP, her real qualified doctor, saw the holistic treatment plan that Dr. Bowden had recommended, he was incredulous. He said the advice had no scientific merit whatsoever. But Carol had been told by a doctor she trusted that GPs didn't understand her condition. The support group reinforced that, all the fake friends and all the people that were in the support group. At one point, members of the group called GPs fuckwits. And I can say that, I can swear like that because it's a quote. It's a quote, Brian.
Fair enough.
It's one of the very rare opportunities I get to say the F word when it's quoted in a story. So
Frist place. The other F.
The other F.
Yeah, the other one.
When Carol tried to push back, when she tried to do something normal, like maybe housework or something, exerting any kind of shred of independence, the support group would shut her down very aggressively. So these fake women, all Luke, scolded her for not following the rules. The message they sent was really clear. If you deviate, you'll get worse. If you disobey, you could die. And they had proof, because at some point, during this campaign, Luke killed off Linda Edwards. I mean, we shouldn't feel bad because Linda would never existed, but
Yes.
what a diabolical scheme.
Just to ratchet up the reason to follow the rules. She wasn't following the rules.
Yeah.
Right?
So she it's like the Squid Game or something.
It
It's
is
crazy.
diabolical.
So Linda, one of the fake patients in the WhatsApp group, a woman Carol had come to care about, was reported to have died. The explanation given to the group was devastating. Linda had died partly because she'd not followed the rules. That was like explicitly what they said. So think about
Carol
what that
was
does.
really upset about it too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
She's
she was
sick,
sad.
confused. And now she's completely isolated, right? And she's been told her survival depends on obeying a set of medical conditions. And then you watch your friend die because she didn't comply. So obviously she's looking at this going, I'm not going to risk it, or I'm not going to question the doctor now. Right. So Stephen and Carol had even driven 3 hours to a luxury hotel in Warwickshire to meet another one of these people, Cheryl Herring, in person. Now you're probably thinking, how do they meet a fake lady who's Luke? He didn't go in drag. Just, that probably would have been a step too far. So
With
believe
the
it or
voice.
not,
With the voice.
yeah. Oh, hello, I'm a lady. No, in this case, as we could all kind of expect, the way out of this is Cheryl didn't show up. So a message came later blaming a medical emergency because, of course, she didn't show up. She never existed. So here's where something interesting starts to happen, because Stephen Baxter, quiet, steady, no shortcuts Stephen, was beginning to notice things. So he wasn't buying all this, wasn't buying it anymore. Stephen emailed Dr. Andrea Bowden, not knowing, of course, that he was emailing Luke, and complained. He said Luke overstayed his welcome. He said Luke's took advantage.
That's right.
Yeah, of their hospitality. He was telling all this stuff to Andrea Bowden. He said Luke played silly mind games with Carol. He said Luke constantly monitored where Carol was going and what she was doing. Sometimes felt like Luke was following her. So Stephen wrote, okay, just to clarify, like Stephen wrote those words to Luke, believing he's confiding in Dr. Bowden.
Yes.
Luke reads every word of it. So the fake Dr. Bowden's response, she defended Luke. She steered Steve back toward acceptance. Her line was, quote, "He's one reason you still have a wife." Wow. Just
Jeez.
what? So Stephen kept pulling at the thread. He started questioning whether some of Dr. Bowden's patients were real. He asked Luke directly about it in text messages. The senior investigating officer later said that Stephen potentially had a hunch, but he never got all the way to the truth. By early 2023, Stephen and Carol they made a decision. They were going to fire Luke from Kaz Splash. They were going to cut him out of the business. They asked Ellie to quietly collect all the business passwords that were in Luke's control, because they were really afraid, legitimately, that if Luke found out he was being let go, he'd retaliate by shutting down the entire IT network and destroying years of records and data and everything. So they were right to be afraid in this case, I think. They just didn't know how right they were, because Luke knew everything. He had the emails, he had the bank accounts, he had the fake doctor's inbox where Stephen had been confiding his frustrations. He knew the Baxters were pulling away, and he knew the walls were closing in, and the business, Kaz Splash, was already over 60,000 pounds in debt. It had effectively stopped trading. Luke had loaned the company 15,000 pounds of his own money, and that money was gone. So everything Luke had built, and the access, the control, personas, everything, daily presence, all of it was about to be taken away from him. That's when things moved very fast. Approximately 1 week before Stephen and Carol Baxter died, Luke DeWitt created a new email address. This one belonged to a new fake man named Alan Mandel. So Dr. Mandel is a doctor, was not an endocrinologist like Andrea Bowden. He was a new character in the expanding universe Luke had built, introduced with a very specific purpose and designed to solve a specific problem that had arisen. The problem in this case was Stephen. So you see, Carol would drink whatever Luke put in front of her. She had been doing it for 2 years, right? So yeah, she trusts him. She trusts Dr. Bowden. She followed the rules. But Stephen was different. Stephen was not the type to take herbal remedies. He was not the type to drink health tonics prepared by the family's IT consultant.
Yeah.
He was, right? Like, if you step back, you're like, maybe the IT guy shouldn't be making the concoctions that we're drinking. But
Yeah.
he was skeptical. He was by nature, I think. So he was an engineer by training, which probably, fed that wiring that he was wired up by. And he had already started questioning the legitimacy of people in his wife's medical orbit. So if Luke was going to get fentanyl into Stephen, he could not just hand him a drink and hope for the best. He needed a mechanism. So he needed some authority. So he needed a reason Stephen would say yes. So he built one. He built Dr. Alan Mandel, introduced something called the Couples Liver Recovery Program.
That's right.
Yeah, right. So Stephen had recently had a medical issue with his liver and was keen to improve his liver health. The program was framed as a joint wellness protocol, something Stephen and Carol could do together, kind of a couples exercise. So the instructions came by email: 1/2 cup of boiling water, 1 teaspoon of lemon juice, 3 dissolved aspirin tablets. Simple, clinically sound, pretty harmless. And then at the bottom of the instructions, it said, quote, "This has to be done correctly. If you're not sure you're doing it right, then stop and ask a friend." Ask a friend. That line is doing all the work here. So because who's the friend in this case? It's the person in the house every single day, right? It's the person who already prepares Carol's health drinks.
Mixologist.
So back to trusting the mixologist. So the instruction funneled the preparation of the drink directly back to the one person who intended to put fentanyl in it. Now, I need to talk about fentanyl just for a second here, because some of you are going to know the name and some of you are going to know it in a very different context. So fentanyl is a synthetic opioid. It's extraordinarily powerful, many times stronger than morphine. In legitimate medical use, it is prescribed for severe pain, often in the form of transdermal patches that release the drug slowly through the skin. Luke's father had been prescribed fentanyl patches during his cancer treatment before he died in 2021. When police searched Luke's home, they found copious fentanyl patches. Some had the same batch number as the ones that were later found in Carol's medicine box with Luke's fingerprints on the packaging. So he'd been sitting on these for years. Wednesday, April 5th, 2023, 3 days before Carol's heart stops, Dr. Andrea Bowden, Luke, sends Stephen an email. And this one is different. This one is not guidance. This one is a threat. I just need to mark something really quick. Okay. This one's a threat. It reads in part, quote, "Carol has to accept. I'm worried something may happen, not just to her, any of you. Marnie's husband nearly got stabbed because she left her knives out. If anything happens to anyone, it'd be on you." It goes on, quote, "Sorry, Steve, but I fear the worst. Now, you need protection from what can happen unless you destroy this illness once and for all." Again, you need protection from what can happen? Like, this is Luke DeWitt sitting in his bedroom, writing as a fictional doctor, telling Stephen Baxter that his family's in danger 3 days before Luke murders him. The email ends by telling Stephen to read it out loud to Carol because Carol cannot rationalize. So Luke is weaving this massive web, and he's doing a pretty good job of it, honestly.
Yes.
So that same day, or very close to it, we're not quite sure, but Carol has what Ellie later described as the worst episode she'd ever seen. The confusion, the disorientation, the inability to function, the worst it had ever been. And then Friday comes. So Friday, April 7th, 2023. This is the day. At 10:15 in the morning, Carol Baxter sends an email to Dr. Alan Mandel. Hi, Alan. Yes, just started. We'll let you know how it goes. She and Stephen are drinking the liver cleanse. They are following the program. They're doing what the doctor told them to do. 5 minutes later, at 10:20, the security camera at the front of the Baxter's house records Luke DeWitt arriving. He's in the house. At 10:42, Carol emails Dr. Mandel again, quote, my husband is really lightheaded. Stephen is feeling the effects, whatever Luke put in that drink, and investigators believe he dipped several of his late father's fentanyl patches into the liquid before serving it. That's hitting Stephen fast. So Carol's writing to a doctor who doesn't exist, reporting symptoms to the man who is causing them, while that man is likely standing in the same room. Okay, at then 10:51, Dr. Mandel replies, quote, it is cheaper than alcohol, smiley face. And then, quote, it's hard, but it's for the best. Hard, but it's for the best. So Luke leaves at some point after that, but he comes back. So investigators believe he returned to the house around 4 p.m. By then, Stephen and Carol would have been deep into the effects of a fentanyl overdose. Investigators believe this second visit was to check on the progression and to clean up. And when I say clean up, I mean clean up completely. When police later processed the house, not a single cup was out of place. There wasn't any cookware out of place. There weren't any utensils, glassware, everything. There wasn't a trace of fentanyl anywhere. Whatever vessel held the poisoned drink was removed or scrubbed so thoroughly that forensic teams found zero. The house was immaculate. So before he left that evening, Luke did 3 things of note. He transferred 6,000 pounds from the Baxter's personal bank account to the Kaz Splash business account, the one he controlled. He labeled it, quote, loan. He used Carol's phone to search for holidays to Disneyland, and later he researched how to delete footage from home security cameras. A close family friend stopped by the Baxter house that evening and then left shortly before 8 p.m. At that time, Carol was asleep. Stephen was up preparing dinner. The friend noticed nothing out of the ordinary, and at 7:55 p.m., the security camera recorded Luke DeWitt walking out the front door. He locked it behind him, then he double locked it, and then he went home. Let's listen to the 911 call now, shall we? This far into the episode. Gosh, this has been a long one. All right, let me mark that, and then let's see. You ready, Brian?
I'm ready.
Here we go. Saturday. Nobody enters the Baxter house through the front door. The security camera confirms this. The back of the property was outside the camera's field of view, but investigators found no evidence of any entry. So between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m., Carol Baxter's pacemaker registers that her heart had stopped. The pacemaker also rules out a coronary event. There was no abnormal heart rhythm. Her heart simply just ba-ba-da-da because the fentanyl shut her body down. Stephen's exact time of death can't really be independently confirmed, but the toxicology would later show a fatal dose of fentanyl in his blood. Carol had both a fatal dose of fentanyl and a double fatal dose of promethazine, so that poison Luke had been feeding her for 2 years, layered on top of that poison that killed her. So between 4 p.m. and 5 p.m. on Saturday, images appear on Luke DeWitt's phone. They are from a camera he had set up inside the Baxter's conservatory, linked to a home surveillance application on his phone. So the images show Stephen and Carol slumped in their recliner armchairs. They are clearly incapacitated. They may have already been dead at this point. Luke DeWitt is watching on his phone this whole time. And while he's watching, while that feed is live on his screen, he goes to the gym. He meets a friend. He takes his mother out for ice cream.
My God.
He took his mom out for ice cream while watching two people die in their living room on his phone. And nothing about his behavior that day raises a single alarm in a single person who sees him. So that evening, Luke sits down to dinner with Ellie Baxter and her partner, Marcus. Ellie, whose parents are dead in their chairs at that very moment, has zero idea it's happening. Luke eats dinner with the daughter of the people that he has just killed. He makes conversation. He acts normal. Nobody notices a thing. The Baxter's family and friends began trying to reach Stephen and Carol on Saturday evening. Calls, texts, emails. No response. By Sunday morning, concern is building. It's Easter weekend. A family birthday is coming up. Stephen and Carol are not the type to go silent, and the blinds have not been opened. So Stephen Baxter opened the window blinds every single morning. It was his ritual, his habit. My wife has the same one, and it annoys me because I kind of like the dark. But she's a rise and shine person, so that was the thing he did before anything else in the day, actually. And on Sunday morning, when Ellie drives past the house, the blinds are still down. The lights are on inside, but the blinds are down. That's the first red flag. And from that point forward, the story belongs to Ellie. Sunday comes, Easter weekend. Ellie Baxter pulls up to her parents' house with her partner, Marcus. She's been trying to reach them. Everyone has been trying to reach them. No answer on the phone, no reply to texts, emails, anything. Blinds are down. Maybe they were just resting, but now it's Sunday. The blinds are still down. Everything's still the same. Nothing's changed. So she knocks on the front door. No answer. She goes around to the back of the house, the conservatory. Bifold doors, large windows. She looks through the glass. Her parents are sitting in their recliner chairs, both of them, bolt upright. They are not moving. Their hands have turned blue. There's liquid trickling from Carol's mouth. Stephen is dressed in smart brown shoes and a polo shirt like he'd come in from a day out. And Carol is in casual clothes with shoes on. They look from a distance almost like they're asleep, but they're not sleeping. Ellie tries to get in. The spare key is not in its usual place. It's gone. She can't open the door. She starts banging on the conservatory, screaming. Neighbor hears the noise, hears the violent banging, hears Ellie's voice. She hears her screaming. They're not moving. The neighbors bring a claw hammer. Marcus takes it and smashes through the conservatory window to get inside. Marcus sees them first, and his initial reaction, I think this it tells us, something, how the human brain works when it's confronted with something it can't process. His initial reaction is to tell Ellie, no, they're asleep. They're just asleep. They're not asleep. They're cold to the touch. Yeah, so Ellie goes to her mother. She begins stroking Carol's hair, pleading with her to wake up. She's 4 months pregnant. She's standing in her parents' conservatory, touching her mother's cold skin, and she's begging her to open her eyes. She throws open the bifold doors to air out the house. Her first thought is carbon monoxide, something maybe in the air, or something that could be still in the room, something that could hurt her and the baby maybe even.
Good thinking.
Yeah, and so that's when she calls 999, and that's what we just heard. And as you can tell, not a lot of productivity from that call. Like she called 999, but as it happens with a lot of people, the trauma is too much. They're not a productive member of that call, which is totally understandable in this case. What that dispatcher hears is what we heard. A young woman so distraught that the words are barely coming through. Ellie says, "We need an ambulance right now. My mom's been poisoned. She's not very well. They're poisoned. They're dead." She's so broken apart that the operator struggles to understand her. She's hyperventilating. Ellie, not the dispatcher. She's trying to give the address. She's trying to explain what she's looking at.
Did she actually say they're poisoned?
Yeah, at one point
That's
she said they're
interesting.
poisoned, isn't it? And
Yeah.
that'll kind of rear its ugly head maybe a little later, and I hate to say a little later because this thing's been going on for a long. This episode's been going
Are we
for a
doing a
long time.
two-part?
Yeah, we might. Brian, we might
Do you
just put
want
this
it?
out in 2 parts. Yeah, might be a good idea.
All right. Yeah.
All
I
right,
think
so
that's, at this point, it sounds like it might be a good idea.
yeah. If you're
Oh.
good to record the rest, we'll stick through it,
Yeah.
and then I'll put it out as a 2-parter.
Fuck that. No.
All right.
Go
so,
do the second part on my own. No, I'm kidding. What?
You know it well enough. You could probably
No,
do it.
I didn't mean it that way. I was just trying to be silly.
Okay. So now, while
Brian
Ellie's
quit his day job just to do the second part of this podcast.
but then it blows up, and I was just here to help
No,
you make
yeah,
it a
yeah,
success. And
Yeah, no.
it'll
no.
work. It'll work. All right. So now, while Ellie's falling apart, Marcus makes a phone call. He calls Luke DeWitt. Why? Because Luke is close. He lives nearby logistically. He's family practically, I guess. So he is Carol's carer, according to, everybody, or even presumed. Carol's friend, and he's the person that's always there. So of course you call him. So of course he's one of the first people that they reached out to. Luke arrives quickly because of course he does. He's been also watching on the, I don't mean to laugh.
He's been waiting for this moment.
Yeah, he probably saw him in the house on his phone, to be honest,
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
They never say if that happened, but yeah.
Yeah.
Could be.
It's very likely. So because he lives a short distance away, when he gets there, he steps into the scene and he takes over. And so now we get to hear a little bit more of a productive phone call. Things are closing out, but Luke thinks he's getting away with this. So he's happy to call 999. Here's his call.
So just tell me exactly what's happened from what you know, please, just so we can all go to bed.
Well, we've just turned up to the house, and we hadn't really heard from anyone for about a day and a half. So we came round, and their daughter got here first, and I think they got round to the back, saw through their conservatory that they were sitting in their armchairs, not moving. There's some blood from her mouth. She slumped over, yellow, blue fingers, cold, they're stiff like hard.
So Luke gets on the phone. He's
Have I told you I hate this guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, just knowing what we know about him and knowing how everyone is standing in the room with him, and he's been involved in everybody's life, but he's also been such a, I hate to say it, non-entity. He's just he's reliable, but forgettable at the same time, if that makes sense.
Right, but he's the puppet master of everything.
But he's the puppet master of all of this. He gets on there. He's measured in his tone. He's helpful. He tells the operator, we just turned up at the house, smashed the window to get in. They're just cold, he says. So listen to the framing of that, though. We just turned up. Their daughter got here first. He positioned himself as part of the rescue party. He positioned himself as the calm, competent person. He was called there, so he could play into this well, no, they just called me here. I wasn't here already. So he describes what happened.
I was just sitting in my lawn chair on the front lawn.
Yeah, I was eating ice cream with my mom when I got the call. Yeah, it's holy cow. He describes what's happening as though he's learning it for the first time, as though he was not watching it happen on his phone, like we presume he probably is. So he tells people at the scene it could be gas or something. So he gathers Carol's medication box, hands it to the paramedics. Helpful, super responsible, doing what a concerned friend would do, right? So he gives a comprehensive statement to police, recorded on body camera footage. He describes himself as Carol's closest friend. He tells the officers about Carol's thyroid medication and makes the suggestion that she could have accidentally overdosed. I don't know. Like, I take a thyroid med, and I'm not quite sure you could take enough of that to overdose. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe.
I don't think he thought this through. I mean, anybody who's watched a little bit of true crime should be familiar with toxicology reports at this point.
Yes. And fingerprints, which it sounds like he didn't do a great job of necessarily hiding, right?
They caught him with the mother load of evidence.
Yeah. So at some point during all of this, while the paramedics are working, while police are taking statements, Ellie's being held back from her parents' bodies, Luke DeWitt quietly slips the used fentanyl patches into Carol's medicine box. So he planted the evidence at the scene while the family is grieving around him. So the ambulance crew confirms what everybody already knows. Stephen and Carol Baxter are dead. The area around the house is cordoned off. Neighboring properties are evacuated as a precaution. They don't know. Maybe it's carbon monoxide and it's still in place. So, they have gas readings that are taken and they realize there's no carbon monoxide anywhere, right? So the paramedics leave. The police leave. Neighborhood goes back to normal and everybody kind of goes inside. For the moment, at least just for that moment, it looks like two people have died together in their home for reasons nobody can explain. Super sad, super strange, super unexplained, but not suspicious, according to anybody. Not yet, at least. So the next morning, Monday, April, what would that be? Now I think my dates are all off because I think you're right with, I have Monday, 17th. April 10th, 17th, April 17th?
Monday, the April 18th.
18th. 6:45 a.m. Records show that Luke DeWitt drafts a document on his phone. It's a codicil. It's a legal addendum to Stephen and Carol Baxter's will. It names Luke as the director and person of significant control of Kaz Splash, with a 60,000-pound grant from the Baxter estate to fund the business. It also specifies that the Baxters' wake should be held at the West Mersey Yacht Club, where Stephen and Carol have been members for nearly a decade. It's backdated to November 22nd, 2022. Luke prints it and leaves a copy in Carol's home office. The codicil is fraudulent. It was not prepared by the Baxter's solicitor or lawyer, not signed properly. It would not have survived 5 minutes of legal scrutiny, but Luke didn't know any of that, or maybe he didn't care because by Monday morning, the man who'd built 20 fictional people, poisoned a woman for 2 years, fed her a nail, murdered both her and her husband with stolen fentanyl, watches them die on surveillance camera, has dinner with their daughter, right? Planned everything, planted evidence at the scene, played the role of grieving friend, and then he sat down before 7 a.m. and tried to rewrite their will. And the same morning, a detective named Lydia George read the weekend's incident report and felt something she couldn't yet prove but could not shake either. Two people don't die like that together. Not at that time, not at the same time, not in that position. There had to be a reason. And so she was very right about that. Okay. So the first speed is slow, painfully slow. When DI Lydia George, the senior investigator officer, picked up this case on the bank holiday Monday, April 10th, she had instinct, but she didn't know if she had evidence yet. So she had two people dead in their armchairs, no defensive wounds, no obvious cause of death. The autopsies came back unremarkable, nothing, clean. Whatever killed Stephen and Carol Baxter did not leave a mark that a pathologist could see on a table, which I always thought was kind of weird because you would think that fentanyl would register but
physically.
it didn't.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I haven't read anything, so I don't know. But
Yeah, I'm not
yeah,
sure.
I
So,
mean, she had good instincts. I like how she immediately. You're probably on the verge of saying this, so I'll let you do it.
well, I think you're right on what you're about to say, because she had her spidey senses were singing pretty well. So blood samples were sent to the laboratory for toxicological analysis, and then everyone waited, because toxicology in the real world doesn't come back in 45 minutes like it does on TV. So it takes weeks. In this case in particular, it took approximately 12 weeks, 3 months. So 3 months
You're
of the
right.
yeah, it took
Yeah,
forever, right?
you're right on all this. I'm just,
Well, except for
I'm,
some of the dates. I
oh,
think I'm
whatever.
wrong on those. So during
And
those 3
and
months,
all sculptors being serial killers. Those two things
yes,
you're right about.
I'm inaccurate on, yes, you're right. There's 2 things so far I've gotten woefully wrong. uh, During those 3 months, the police, they did what police do. They went house to house and did inquiries. They interviewed witnesses. They did background checks. During that process, there were a few things that did surface. So first, the codicil. So Ellie Baxter found the document in her mother's home office in a banking folder. It named both Ellie and Luke as beneficiaries, which was odd. Ellie brought it to Carol's sister, who is designated the executor of the real will, and the sister immediately flagged it. The Baxters' actual solicitor confirmed that the document had not been prepared by their firm, and neither Stephen nor Carol had contacted his office to make any changes, and
Red
that it
flag.
was,
Big red flag.
yeah, not legitimate, all over the place. Um, and that Ellie Baxter and Luke both appeared to benefit, was odd. Both had access to the house, both had proximity to the victims. So there's a bit of a split hair that starts happening here, right? So the spidey senses are firing off, but they're not sure who they should be pointing at yet. Like, should they be pointing at Ellie or should they be pointing at Luke? So that was one thing. Second, Luke started asking neighbors about their CCTV footage. So Luke's doing this. So his cover story was a missing delivery, but to a detective who was already suspicious, a person of interest asking the neighbors about a security camera within
Sure.
days of unexplained double death, not a good look. And then we've got one other point that kind of cuts in a different direction. The police learned about prior domestic incidents at the Baxter home. So arguments, there were some call outs, the kind of family friction that in isolation doesn't mean a whole lot, but in the context of a death investigation gets written down and weighed in. So the community was already talking, and the community was not talking about Luke. Interestingly, the community was talking about Ellie.
Poor daughter.
So, yeah, you see how this works, right? That you've got a tight-knit island where Luke DeWitt is the beloved volunteer and Ellie Baxter is the young woman who argued and with her parents and borrowed money and only worked 4 days in the family business in the past year. You've got a fraudulent document that names both of them,
Right.
and you've got a community that genuinely cannot fathom that the nice, quiet boy who played Santa Claus could be capable of something like this. So when the toxicology results finally come back in approximately June of 2023, and the case is detonated, the arrests went wide. The crime scene manager called D.I. George with the results. Stephen Baxter had a fatal level of fentanyl in his blood. Carol Baxter had a fatal level of fentanyl and a double fatal dose of promethazine. So apparently, answering our question, the initial investigation didn't provide any, evidence, but this blood test that takes 3 months did. Neither of them had a fentanyl prescription, so this was already red flag. Neither of them had any history of illicit drug use, no injection marks. Evidence indicated they ingested the fentanyl orally. Overnight, the case was reclassified then from unexplained death to double homicide. So 4
It
hypotheses
went
had been on
straight
the
to
table.
homicide.
Yeah, they went right from like, we don't really know, this is unexplained, to somebody murgled them.
So
And
they quickly jumped past suicide. Well, yeah, it could be like one of those
good
death
point.
pacts, right? I think
that's a
one
good
of the
point.
investigators broke it down. She said, like, look, they didn't die from natural causes.
Yeah.
So they ingested something that killed them. I think she broke
Yep.
it down like either one of them poisoned both of them, or they both had a death pact.
Yep.
And one of them went before the other, and then the last possibility is an external force, right?
Yep. You must be a wizard because you literally read the next part of the
Shit.
script that I wrote. Bro, I don't know how you did that. I'm going to leave it in too because it's so uncanny. I'm going to read the sentence just so you know how close you were.
All right.
This is how the next sentence reads. Everyone,
Shit.
Brian's a wizard. Here's how it reads in my script. 4 hypotheses had been on the table.
4.
Natural sudden death, unusual for 2 people simultaneously, a suicide pact, one killing the other and then themselves, or third-party involvement. The toxicology blew the first 3 apart and pointed hard at the 4th. So, Brian, how'd you do that? That's what I want to know.
I mean, it was a fascinating case. There's certain things that stuck, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever.
Well, you nailed it. Okay. So
what's that? STFU? I could just STFU. I was gonna say it.
Dude, as you were saying, I'm keeping all this in. I'm not editing this out.
Right.
As you were saying it, I'm like, how is he doing this? Is he a mind reader? And I was like, maybe Brian's a hacker. He's reading my screen. That was crazy. All right. So
here's the part where you say, Brian is my new best friend. How did you know? I was just going to say that. All right.
Oh, my gosh. All right. Well, Brian knows what's going to happen next, but I'm going to tell you guys what happens next. The arrests happen, as Brian knows, and they happened all at once. So 2 teams were deployed simultaneously so that neither suspect in this case could alert the other or destroy evidence, because they weren't sure if it was like one or the other or both, right? So Ellie Baxter was arrested at approximately 7 a.m. at her house. She was in her pajamas. She was 6 or 7 months pregnant, right? So
poor thing.
She was read her rights and taken to Chelmsford Police Station. She's 22 years old, and she found out that her parents died in their chair 3 months ago. You're carrying a baby, and now the officers are at your door, and they're arresting you.
I bet they didn't even tell her. They put it together that that's a possibility that they were murdered. They probably didn't. You know, they don't do that. They don't tell them anything. So that's the first she's hearing of it.
They wouldn't have tipped her. Right? You're right. They wouldn't have tipped her off. So she's got to be catching all this first. This is her first glimpse at all this.
Can you imagine?
She couldn't comprehend it. She was absolutely shocked. She went through 3 separate 2-hour interview sessions. And during those interviews, she was told something she didn't know at all about. She didn't know about the fentanyl overdoses. She didn't know any of that. And so that, like, to your point, that was the first time she was hearing the word fentanyl in connection with any of this, right? So she was released on bail after approximately 6 hours. Her partner, Marcus, was also arrested and released. A Crown Prosecution Service lawyer later reviewed the footage of Ellie discovering her parents' body, and they concluded, and I'm paraphrasing, but the substance is direct, that she would have had to be a remarkably good actress to fake that reaction if she'd been involved. So after a full review of every one of Ellie's digital devices, investigators found absolutely no evidence connecting her to the murders, like none, 0. But here is the thing about being arrested on suspicion of murdering your own parents on a small island where everyone knows your name.
Yeah.
Even when you're cleared, even when a jury convicts somebody else, the stain doesn't come out. Not fully, at least. Not in a place like Mersey.
I heard her refer to it in a term that I don't know how it would fly in this climate that we're in currently, but she said, then the Chinese whispers begin. And I'm like, I haven't heard that expression in a long time.
That's
Yes,
one that you only know because your parents said it. You know what I mean? Like,
from your childhood. Yeah.
Yes, it's from your childhood. So Luke DeWitt then was arrested at his home at the very same time. He was calm, confirmed he had never been arrested before. He was handcuffed at the front. And when he arrived at the police station, when Ellie heard his voice in the holding cells, she called out to him. She told the officers to be nice to him. She said, he's not this type of person. So, like,
she was character witnessing him.
Yeah, she doesn't know what she's in for, you know, because she hasn't gone out and gotten the community fallout yet. And so she thinks she's protecting somebody who she thinks is, anyway. So she was defending the man, in this case, who'd murdered her parents. So the police shut that down. They prohibited Ellie and Luke from speaking and told them cell doors would be locked if they continued. Yeah. So then while Luke sat in custody, the search teams hit his house. And this is where the second speed kicks in, because if the first 3 months were slow, what came out of Luke DeWitt's bedroom was an absolute avalanche. So the phone at the station started ringing with live updates from the search teams, and it didn't stop. So they found the fentanyl patches, some batch numbers as the same ones met in Carol's medicine box, Luke's fingerprints on the packaging. They found the Nugen tablets. They found makeshift pestles and mortars. They found capsules. They found nails, right? Syringes, bags of
the mother load. Yeah.
They found everything.
And oh, sorry, I'm gonna wait.
No, you say it. I think you're right. I think you're right. So go ahead, say it.
What the bag he had on him when he was arrested.
Oh, no, tell him. Go ahead, say it.
No, you go ahead. But
you. Go ahead.
And, like, this guy, I mean, for as fucked up as he is and as manipulating, and this is this long, multi-year scheme of control, he had absolutely zero intelligence on the back end of it, like you were saying, his place was a treasure trove of evidence. And when they arrested him, he had what appeared to look just on the surface to me like a small duffel bag, like maybe a type of small gym bag type of thing. And in there was fentanyl patches. I mean, on him, literally walking around with it.
Yeah. The silliest, so at some point it's the perfect crime, and then it suddenly becomes the dumbest.
It becomes the perfect arrest.
Yeah, it's like it's perfect page flip from one to the next, right? Yes. So, okay. I thought this is what you were going to say, because I thought we were digging into.
You thought I was wizarding again?
Too. Yeah. So they found approximately 80 electronic devices on him, 18 mobile phones, 10 laptops, iPads, smartwatches, hard drives, USB sticks. Some of the phones had unregistered SIM cards generating numbers from over 80 different countries. So that's where all the country stuff comes from, as far as how this was all getting fed, through WhatsApp and whatnot. And then came the moment that broke the case wide open. So an investigator named Ruben, working through the mountain of digital evidence, found that Dr. Andrea Bowden email account they found that one. And it found out it was logged into a mail.com application on one of Luke's phones. It wasn't deleted. It wasn't hidden behind encryption. It was logged in, and it was super accessible. Just a low-hanging fruit, pick up this softball for the team. And from that single discovery, they could trace the entire email history from every message from Dr. Bowden, everyone he had ever sent to Carol, every instruction, all the rules, all the threats.
All of
they
it.
could see the full scope. Yeah. So from that point, the investigators transformed. It was no longer them looking for between two people. It was, we know who our murderer is, and we're on a murder case. And they were blown away by the psychological warfare of this whole thing. So the team expanded to 34 detectives. Again, remember, this is a little island. So this is a big operation, right? 12 officers spent 5 months reviewing the digital evidence. That's how much there was. They found audio recordings of Luke practicing female voices that we heard. They found his browser history, searches for how to change your voice on a live call, how to delete home. I'm guilty of that though, because I thought maybe people would like this show better if I was a woman.
How to do a podcast with no pants.
Yeah. How to conceal your identity from a really smart sculptor.
Oh, that's easy.
Yeah.
I told you that the brief catfish scare I had.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I was like, oh no.
Well, we should tell people here, when I first reached out to Brian, he wasn't convinced that it was actually me, because my Instagram account had gotten hacked like a week before. And so he's like, maybe the invite wasn't real.
Yeah, I didn't know. I mean, you clearly posted that, I didn't know.
I got hacked. Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't know if it was the hacker writing me.
Some hacker from Indonesia, or really a fake operator.
some crazed sculptor from Indonesia. I'll show that Brian Wade.
He got that gig with Harryhausen, and I should have had it. Okay. And then we get to, it's late in the investigation. They find the last piece. This is rounding home, believe it or not. So the Dr. Alan Mandel persona was the final piece to the puzzle. So the liver recovery program emails, remember those? The mechanism by which Luke had gotten Stephen, a man who would normally not accept any of this herbal remedy stuff, he got him to drink fentanyl-laced concoctions. And,
Under
so
the
on
guise
July...
of liver treatment.
Yeah. So July 7th, 2023, Luke DeWitt sat down for his formal interview at Chelmsford Police Station. He confirmed his name and date of birth. He offered some initial explanations. The fentanyl patches were his late father's. He was bringing medication to the pharmacy. The capsule bag was not his. The crushed Nugen was for an eczema cream. And then when the questions got real, he did what a lot of people do in that chair. No comment, no comment, no comment. And he just kept no commenting. So
he clamped up big time.
Yeah. At 7:37 p.m., he was charged with 2 counts of murder, possession of a Class A drug, and theft. The theft was relating to jewelry he had stolen from Carol, and he was remanded into custody. So here's a detail. After Luke was arrested, after every phone was seized, all the SIM cards, everything, something happened that finally gave Ellie Baxter the truth. Every single fake persona stopped communicating.
Oh, that's right.
Right? So suddenly the whole world that they had been interacting with all of a sudden just flatlined.
She was trying to reach out to one person who had become like a really close, and that just died. It just stopped. Yep. Yeah.
Linda was literally
she didn't put
dead.
2 and 2 together right away.
Yeah. Right. So Ellie described that realization as a domino effect. One by one, the identities collapsed into each other, and every voice, all the friends. Imagine that, I've got digital friends. I've got a handful. You were a digital friend until we were on this show.
You're still a digital friend. How about that?
And you're gonna stay there.
You're gonna like it.
We're not sure you're real yet.
Yeah. How do I know?
Oh my gosh. So I can't wrap my head around how hard it would be to realize that one person sitting in a bedroom, on an island where everybody knows everybody is half of the people you think it just blows my mind. All right, let's wrap this thing up. So mid-February 2024, Chelmsford Crown Court. Luke DeWitt, now 34 years old, stands trial for the murder of Stephen and Carol Baxter. His plea, surprisingly not guilty to all charges, he says. The trial lasted approximately 6 weeks, and what the jury heard over those you would think, it should be 5 minutes, right?
Yeah.
But 6 weeks, in essence, the jury heard two completely different stories about the same set of facts. One of those stories was supported by evidence, and the other was supported by the audacity of a man who'd spent a decade lying to everyone he knew and apparently believed he could do it one more time. That's audacity, right? So the prosecution laid it out methodically. The digital evidence, thousands of emails, fake personas, Bowden, Luke's phone, audio recordings of him practicing the female voice. When you hear that in court, how are you still saying not guilty?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
It just doesn't make any sense. And they were very direct with their characterization.
Did he take the stand? Did they mention? Probably didn't. I didn't hear it. I don't recall.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, I don't think his defense would have let him either. That's a good question. I'm not quite sure.
I didn't hear anything about it.
Yeah,
but it wouldn't have helped him.
It wouldn't have been 6 months if he had gotten up there, I don't think.
Right.
So the prosecution made it really clear. They told the jury he'd murdered the Baxters calmly and coolly and in a way which had been entirely planned, maybe for some while. They argued dual motives, financial gain, and something darker. They said Luke received, and I think we both agree on this, he received a sadistic satisfaction from the infliction of this pain and suffering, like watching it on the camera, giving her the nail, all of it, right? And their final words to the jury were, "You may be tempted to be beguiled like others. There are allegiances of people that have fallen for this manipulation and lies." So in a way, they realized that even at this moment, there were people outside of the courthouse, maybe some people inside the courthouse,
supporting
who were raw. Yeah, against all the evidence, their eyes doth deceive them, right? So it wasn't hypothetical. Sitting in that courtroom, ready to testify on Luke's behalf, were somewhere between, remember, 30 and 40 character witnesses from the town. It just doesn't make any sense.
Would you have 30 or 40 character witnesses?
I don't think I could get 3. I don't there's been times where I'm
don't look at
with
me.
11. Yeah. I mean, there's been times with 1159 where I'm like, I don't know if I can find 3 or 4 hug dealers to help me out of this one. So, but I hope. I'll tell you, one of my biggest fears though is juries. If I'm ever have to be in court for something I did or didn't do, I don't want to be judged by a jury. I'm scared to death of juries because they don't seem smart.
Yeah. Would you do that other thing, that other option where the judge can serve as the, what I'm talking about? I forgot the name of it.
That's a good question.
You would rest it all in the hopes that this guy is a wise guy, a wise gentleman.
If my lawyers did a little recon on the judge, I might take that route rather than 12 people I don't know.
So next time it happens,
Next time it happens,
You know
I'll
what to
remember
do.
what you said.
Yeah.
All right. So
Each and every time.
the next time it happens,
Yes.
every time from now on.
Yes.
All right. So the defense, I want to be fair about this too, because everyone's entitled to a defense. You know, I'm cringing a little when I say that, but it's true. It's true. I need to tell you what their defense was. So the defense tried to do two things. First, they tried to implicate Ellie. They pointed out that she also stood to benefit financially from her parents' deaths. They referenced a neighbor's statement, a neighbor who claimed to have heard Stephen and Carol having a heated argument with Ellie on the evening of Saturday, the Saturday before they died. That's pretty damaging, right? Ellie arguing with parents the night they died. Except for one problem. Carol Baxter's pacemaker confirmed that her heart stopped between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. on Saturday. By that evening, Carol was dead. She'd been dead for hours. She was not arguing with anyone. The pacemaker data, a medical device implanted in the victim's body, recorded objective cardiac activity, completely destroying the neighbor's account, which, again, like, good, because
Right. Yeah.
that's like bad jurors. It's like, what are you getting out of this? If you're a witness, a neighbor that is basically lying, is what this person was doing.
Yeah. Trying to create some other narrative. Yes.
I guess,
Agreed. Yeah.
you know, the claim that they made, though, fortunately fell apart. It could have hit the news and, you know, gotten a life of its own. And then, Brian, I forgot I wrote this in the script. Luke took the stand.
Oh, he did.
Surprise.
Oh.
All right.
I don't
so
think
Luke,
I knew
Luke
that.
I don't recall. I mean, I wrote it. So, okay. This is where we need to pay a little bit of attention, because what Luke DeWitt did on that witness stand tells you more about who he is than almost anything else in this case. He told the juries that the deaths were a murder-suicide, that Stephen Baxter had killed Carol and then taken his own life. So he told the jury that the health drinks he served were harmless, they contained no drugs, and then he told the jury that the fake personas, all 20 of them, were Stephen's idea. He said Stephen asked him to create them. He said Stephen wanted Luke to build these fictional people so that Carol would have someone to talk about her illness to, so that she, you know, she'd feel supported, so that she'd feel less alone. So he stood in a courtroom facing the children of the people he had murdered, and he blamed their death on their father. It took the one person who could not defend himself, the man whose body was already in the ground, and he made him the architect of his own family's destruction. Now, what I'll say is they have all of the communication and everything. They also have a couple of those fake personas who were talking directly to Stephen,
Right.
which would tell you, no, Stephen didn't invent people that Stephen needed to talk to, right? It
Right.
doesn't make any...
Yes.
Could you also make a couple of those people to talk to me?
I don't have any friends.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Oh, gosh. So the answer was obvious. Stephen didn't know about this. Stephen was a victim of the deception, not the co-author. So an investigator who watched Luke's testimony described it as disgusting. She called it his last thrill of being able to torture the family. And during cross-examination, the prosecution noted something interesting. Luke was abrupt and somewhat difficult on the stand. Rather than attempting to charm the jury the way they'd expected, the mask, it seemed, was slipping. Or maybe it was never designed for a room full of people who already had all the emails. So
Yeah.
Ellie took the stand too. You know, she testified about the family dynamics and Luke's controlling behavior, the discovery of the bodies, and the slow realization of the fake persona network. And she said something, man, just that you'd have to be put in the situation to have to say this, but she said, her quote was, all I'm guilty of is loving my parents. Like, okay. The jury then deliberated for 3 days. The verdict came back unanimous, guilty on both counts of murder. When the word was read, Luke DeWitt remained straight-faced, no reaction, no flinch, no emotion, the same composure he had shown when he locked the front door behind him on Friday night, the same composure he had shown while eating ice cream on Saturday with his mother, the same composure he had shown when he took over the 999 call that Sunday and described himself as Carol's closest friend. The judge imposed concurrent sentences of life imprisonment with a minimum term of 37 years,
Two
Two,
sentences?
yeah,
All right.
2. So he would be eligible, he'd be eligible to be considered for parole in 37 years. In sentencing remarks, the judge called the actions cruel and senseless. The judge told Luke, "You ended Carol and Stephen Baxter's lives, and you brought grief and misery to the lives of others, especially their children. You've given them years of pain and drama." And the judge identified what he believed was the primary motivation. Not money, not the business, not the codicil. He had a desire to control others. That's what the judge thought.
Very spot on
Yeah,
assessment.
I think so.
Yeah.
Police subsequently began investigating whether Luke DeWitt could have been involved in the deaths of his own father and grandfather. His father, the man who'd been prescribed the fentanyl patches Luke later used to kill the Baxters, died of cancer in 2021. His grandfather's death was also placed under review. There weren't any conclusions from those investigations that I could find that were available, but the fact that the question was asked tells you whether the investigators' minds went once they saw the full scope of what he'd done to the others. And then there's this little chunk of aftermath, the part that it really doesn't fit inside a verdict. But Ellie Baxter gave birth to a healthy baby girl in the months following her parents' deaths. Her parents never met their granddaughter. The trauma of discovering the bodies had caused Ellie to bleed heavily, and she'd feared a miscarriage at 4 months pregnant. The baby survived, but the mother, who would have been there for every moment of that pregnancy, the mother had been Ellie's best friend, her biggest supporter, the person she shared mother-daughter days with, she was gone. And here is something that Ellie put together after Luke's arrest. During her pregnancy, Luke had offered her energy drinks.
No.
She'd only taken sips, but those sips had caused adverse reactions like excessive drowsiness, strange symptoms. Yeah, and when Ellie took breaks from seeing Luke, her health always improved.
I didn't know that.
It's crazy.
So
when he was
maybe he was thinking that inheritance would work, and then he'd kill her off.
Yeah,
maybe.
and if the codicil had them both in it, but she was dead, he's the only recipient, right? So all of that, her health improves. And
she
the
had
symptoms
a healthy
all
baby.
disappeared. Yeah, he got arrested. Everything went back to normal. So she was kind of left with this question that no one's ever been able to really answer definitively. Was she being poisoned? Now, one final thing, the island. Ellie Baxter moved away from Mersey Island. She had to, because despite everything, despite the toxicology, despite the digital evidence, fake personas, all that, there were people on the island who still looked at her sideways. Like,
poor thing.
It's crazy. People in shops looked away from her. There were rumors, all this. So after the conviction, Ellie sat down and talked about what it was like being accused for something like this by a community that still will not look her in the eye. And I've got a little bit of video from that. I'll play it here and then we'll wrap this up. Here we go.
I mean, I obviously too was manipulated. So my understanding of that is that my mum had reached out to a doctor, and then a year or so later, she then got back in touch. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know. Whether it was just an email and that's how that started, I'm not sure. But she was a doctor that specialises with thyroid issues, and yeah, it just it was a massive relief actually to have someone to be able to help us navigate this condition. Yeah, it was everything, how much rest she got, what types of food she would eat, how much sugar she would consume, her social interactions, just absolutely everything. So it was about a good year and a half, 2 years of her slowly getting worse and worse. And by the end of it, I mean, she was out of it. She couldn't speak, she couldn't communicate properly, she was very uncomfortable, she was itchy, she was in quite a lot of pain, and she was just absolutely stripped of her life. Yeah, I think we all were. We had no idea how to help her get better, and it was really sad to see someone you love deteriorate like that. Well, I actually went round the day before, and my dad, I was there most days, and my dad said he wanted a bit of a break, and I've got a young family, so I said, of course, and I drove past the house, and everything just looked normal, the blinds were down, and by the next morning, I still hadn't heard from them. I drove past the house again, and the blinds were still down, and my dad would methodically get up and do that. He'd do that ritualously. And that is when I knew something was wrong. And I got out of the car, went round the back of the house, and yeah, I saw Mum and Dad both there. It was very obvious to me that they had passed. The skin discoloration, and it was really, really horrible. And the house was locked; I couldn't get in. So we ended up smashing our way in. Yeah, it was very traumatic, to be honest. Well, at that point with her illness, she was getting very confused. I mean, at one point she was ironing my dad's shirt on top of the stove and, things like that. She'd put bleach, in a cup of tea, and, she was just, all the signals in her brain were just getting completely mixed up. So my first thought was like, oh my gosh, she's cooked something and they've ingested something, and, I really thought that it was a mistake that she'd done. So I actually found the letter, and actually it's only recently I've realised I was actually manipulated even into finding the letter, because there was another fake persona named Jenny that I was in very close contact with, and I had told her that my parents had passed away, and she said, right, well, this is what you need to do. My husband's parents, like when his dad died, this is what we've done. You need to go through and get a bank account number for all of the banks. You need to go through and get all this and that. And it was in the banking folder that I had found this fake will. So even that decision, it actually did stem from Luke himself again, Yeah, I was about 7 months pregnant when I got the knock at the door. And it just, it was, hang on, like, I'm being arrested for one. And then it was, when they said, you're being arrested on suspicion for the murder of Carol and Stephen Baxter, I mean, where do you even go? And it took a few minutes. It was like, hang on, wait, murder? That means they have been murdered? And then it was just slowly piecing it all together. And I think when I found Mum and Dad, I've never felt an emotional pain physically hurt so much, and it really, really affected me. I was early pregnant with my daughter, and it really did, hurt my body, and I think I just went into that protection mode, and I just needed to not let myself get too hysterical. Yeah, even still, I mean, if I go into the shop, people do look away, and all that type of thing. And it's now I just kind of want everything ruled out. It's always the people that are saying that are still suspicious that did not go to the trial and didn't attend, and and won't listen to the facts. And I mean, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. No. So we shall see.
Oh,
Boy,
it'd be
poor
so
thing.
hard to, yeah. Like it blows my mind. I think Harry Baxter, Stephen and Carol's son, probably put it in the best terms. I don't know that we could really improve on what he said. He said his family were dolls in Luke DeWitt's dollhouse. He said Luke completely destroyed everything we held close to our hearts, and every memory and future dream we could have shared. And I think that's very true. These two people grew up in council estates and built a life with their hands, and a retirement that they never really got to start, and this connection that they were hoping for to nurture this with their grandkids that were coming, and all the things. And this guy just comes into their life and does the diabolical, like just an immense amount of orchestration.
This case, to be honest, I found myself, I was running errands and I was thinking about it, and I was thinking of it, it made my head swim a little bit, so to speak. Just like,
Yep.
just trying to fathom it, the amount of effort the the why of it all is still somehow unsatisfying, you know? Like
I
I
agree.
get it, but it's like that's why true crime is so fascinating because you're like, it happened, somebody did it, this is why they did it, and you still can't wrap your brain around. I don't think the no matter what, I mean, I feel for the families, obviously,
Yeah.
but no answer is gonna, even if you say like the most cut and dry, like, well, it was for the money. In an example where that's the case, it's still hard to like what?
Yeah.
People do that, you know? And
The marriage of all of the potential reasons he did it still doesn't make enough sense to put in that much effort. Like it's beyond.
the
It's beyond
dollhouse
beyond.
comment kind of gets you thinking too, because
Yeah.
that's kind of a nice, or I don't know if nice, maybe a good way to visualize what I'm trying to process. Because,
Yeah,
he was manipulating everybody in that manner.
it's like you'd have it's perfect because you would be unemotional in the way you would manipulate dolls in a dollhouse, right?
That's
And
true too.
it seemed like it also seemed all consuming. Like I couldn't imagine how do you get anything else done in your life?
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, it's true. Yeah.
If he wasn't a criminal, I might hire him as like a relationship manager or something, or social media guy. He'd be great for
Don't say any of that. If he wasn't such a murderer,
if he wasn't such a murderer,
if he would
he'd
dial
be
back on
fielding
the
my.
murdering,
I'll let him handle my emails.
he certainly knows how to multitask. Oh,
Oh,
we're
gosh,
being told.
it's true.
You know what this is?
Holy cow!
This is that uh way that people process, and to the people who are listening, I'm sure you understand, it's the dark humor that helps you
Yeah.
uh get that sticky feeling off you, you know?
Yep. Yep. I
So
think we can all relate. A little bit of gallows humor,
yes,
and
yes.
honestly, I think the best outcome came of a very tragic situation in this case. But that's the case, Brian.
Yeah,
I
that
uh,
there it is. I
I
really
think
feel
this
for
is a
the daughter.
record.
Oh no.
This is a record length but it came on episode 200. We had our 2-time Oscar winner here. I couldn't.
No.
This is like a birthday
Contributor.
gift. I
Contributor.
Oscar winning Oscar. You won. You won. You can say
You won.
contributor, but you're listed on the list, right? So we're all winners because you're here. So
We all get a participation award.
that's right. That's right.
Good job,
Brian, I
buddy.
can't thank you. This was
You're
great.
you're in Frist's place.
Thank you. Thank you. If you'd like to come back, I'd love to have you. I
Love to.
promise you I'll bring a shorter case
Okay.
next time,
All right.
if you
Yeah.
do show up.
Done deal.
But there was stuff that happened offline where Brian took me on a tour of his room right there and showed me things that
And Sam tried to show me some things that were right. If you look
right below the
here,
camera.
he kept saying, if you look right here, I'm like, I'm not falling for that.
Not
It's
looking there.
third time today. Every
He's
single
learned.
time. Just no, look right here. This time is cool.
All right.
You,
Well, that's
Sam.
it. I think that's
Thank
the
you,
happiest ending we could have on this one. So I appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having
And
me.
to everybody that's listening, thanks for being here. 200 episodes. If you've been here since the beginning, thank you. If you're just starting out, welcome to the ride. And we'll be back. I'll be back with the number 201 here soon. So much hugs to everybody.
Bye. Hugs.
This has been the 911 Calls podcast with you know who.